And we're live.
Hey, there we are.
Back this
You are now hanging out with the Reptile Hangouts podcast. Hello, everybody. What another
What up?
great week in the books. Here we are for Friday. You got the usual down here, Nick, and not so usual. No, I'm just kidding. It's Gabe. He's unusually usual.
and I wasn't here last week, and I'm unusual now.
Unusual. Who's this guy?
Yeah, the unusual
He's our
Gabe.
second guest of this week. No, I'm just
misses
kidding.
one episode, and now he's not part of the gang anymore.
Regular anymore, damn.
Oh yeah. Well, we're gonna let you start it off. Start it off, Gabe. You've probably been dying for this question. What's new with you?
Well, other than the fact that I'm literally sitting where my reptiles used to be, everything that you guys ever seen in the house. Not really, man. No, just like we moved was like 2 weeks ago. We still got this house. We're finishing up some final things, but my reptiles are an hour and a half away from where I currently am right now. So it's just been real chaotic with the whole move, but hopefully by next week I'll be settled in and have internet to be able to relax to do the podcast in the new.
Yeah, disclaimer, there'll be a dog in and out of the screen on Gabe's screen tonight because that's what he's wrestling. He's not like got a cramp or anything. He's wrestling
a
dog. So,
but
now everybody seems to be frozen all at the same time on my screen.
All right. I'll be back.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was a little laggy too.
All right, well, you go next because I'll go last and I'll do the U.S. Arc after.
Yeah.
Since we skipped that part.
We're going to skip it. It's not over yet, buddy. Hold them horses. Grab the reins.
We usually do it in an order, though.
The episode ain't over yet. Fucking chill.
No.
No, man, ain't shit new around here, but the calendar date, man, it's just working and keeping up with the reptiles, man. It's been crazy with the baby. I don't know that I'm ever going to adjust to that life, but we'll figure it out. Hey, what's going on, Kyle?
Hey, bro.
Kyle.
Thanks for coming in.
But yeah, man. So unfortunately, not shit is new here. So you can go ahead and go.
Okay. Thanks for the permission. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. What's the U.S.
Anyway, yeah, nothing, not a whole lot new here either, really. Just doing the same old stuff, man. Taking care of the geckos, obviously. Just got some more eggs the other day. Hopefully a couple more clutches on the way within the next week or so. I've got the reptile show tomorrow. So I do the Tri-State Expo here in West Virginia. We're going to be in Beckley tomorrow from 10 to 9, or 10 to 4, 10 to 9. Wow, that would be a long day. 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Beckley Raleigh County Convention Center. So that should be a fun time. There's some people I know coming out to that, so that's good. Hopefully, a bunch of people show up. It'd be really nice. Yeah. Other than that, man, normally we always like to plug U.S. Arc for you guys. If you're not familiar with the United States Association of Reptile Keepers, you should be if you like this podcast and you're a reptile person, or if you're a reptile keeper. Go to usarc.org, become a member. A lot of people say support USARC. The best way to support them is become a member. You can get a $5 a month membership. You won't even notice it. You can help support the fight against legislation that, is trying to keep us from being able to do these things that we love. What's that?
I'm waving to the person that just said hello without cutting you off. Okay. I see it didn't work.
I see.
I would cut you off anyway.
Didn't work at all. Totally distracted. You wave at the screen while I'm speaking. I'm going to be like, why are you waving at me?
Hello, Trish.
Didn't work at all.
Oh, what's going on?
Hi, Trish. What's up, brother? This is Nathan, my buddy from school. My lab mate at grad school right now. Yeah.
Man, that's great.
Thanks for coming in. But anyway, yeah, US Arc, man, definitely go with US Arc, support them. And they have a YouTube channel now. I've been plugging this for the last few weeks. They have their own official YouTube channel. So if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to that. The dog is barking. My God. Hey. Psst.
Hey, man, this is a pet channel. It's okay.
Cats. It's the cats. She just barks and barks and barks at the cats. It's like incessant. It never stops. Anyway, go subscribe to their YouTube channel. The more subscribers they get on there, the more support, the better it looks, obviously. And they just had Phil Goss, the president of USARK, on the Reptile Talk podcast last night. That's Rob and Jeremy, for those of you who don't know. So this is as fresh as the news gets. I listened to that while it was going on live, and he basically said, where we stand with the Lacey Act stuff is keep contacting your senators, try to schedule meetings if you can, make phone calls, send emails. Things are just sort of in limbo and recess right now, but the more of us that they hear from, the better off we'll be in the end.
Definitely.
That's what I got.
So do your part. You wanna keep the reptiles, you wanna keep going to shows, keep enjoying this wonderful hobby we have. Do your part. That's all you're gonna do.
Absolutely.
So but without further ado, I'm so sorry.
It's very funny.
I thought I was gonna sneeze, but I ended up coughing. Jesus, I'm gonna get my stuff together one day. We have Richard Stewart from the Tarantula Collective. How you doing?
What's up, Richard?
You're muted, brother. You're
muted. There we go. I didn't want you guys spying in on my conversations.
Yeah.
How's it going tonight?
So what is going on?
Not much. Everybody is asleep. I am on the verge of falling asleep. Not because of you, just because it's late.
I
got you. Yeah, it's that that family dad life. I bet, huh? Yeah, kids are asleep here on my end too. Wife went to bed begrudgingly because she likes to listen to the TV at like 30 volume. So
yeah,
yeah, that's how it goes.
Say hi.
Was that your?
Oh yeah.
Gabe.
So as you most of y'all know, we just moved. So.
Oh, you have the babe. Hi, sweetheart.
Yeah. Say hi.
I thought you were there by yourself with the hi.
No,
I thought you were there by yourself with the dog.
Yeah.
Whew.
So you're in your animal room right now.
Yes. Yeah. I think all the lights. I got like one heat light on, but yeah, everything's off right now.
Okay.
I got it on a day-night cycle.
Yeah.
I mean, tarantulas don't really need that, but it does kind of help, with their overall health.
Okay. So
and I'm down here in a basement, so it's all the windows are blacked out, so I got to provide some kind of light for them.
That's what I was going to ask if you're in a basement, because that seems to be
Absolutely.
a prerequisite for getting on this podcast. Apparently, is you got to have a basement. We
Yep.
don't have basements, but every single one of our guests do.
Nope.
Yeah, it comes in handy.
Oh yeah. So how many tarantulas do you think you got in your collection?
It varies. I think I got a couple of large communals recently, so I think it's around the 200 mark.
Oh, 200 spiders. My skin's crawling.
Yeah, in
Are
case
are they all of
tell.
like size, or do you have some small ones?
It's a good mix, yeah. I mean, the majority of the enclosures behind me are for adults. So, I mean, probably 50 or 60 of them are full-grown adults. But then it's kind of broken up in between there. I think most of mine right now are in a juvenile stage. So, they can stay in there for, depending on the species, one couple years, or it could be like another 10 years.
Oh,
so some of them are pretty slow growing. So it's, yeah. And then I've got like a little nursery with a bunch of spiderlings.
Oh yeah, the little.
Hey.
Is that I made it and I'm in a basement.
And he's in the basement. Gotta love.
Congratulations, you qualify.
So, how did this start? The spiders.
Oh,
I've
man.
always loved them, but I can't have them on me or near me. It's like the silver dollar size ones scare me the most. I feel like those are the easiest ones to lose track of. So fast.
I feel you. Like I was kind of scared of spiders, even like going out camping and stuff all the time. Those were like the one things I never wanted to run into. And I was a freshman in college and was like at this I was like a private Lutheran school, so it was kind of conservative, and I was like the punk rock guy there. And there wasn't very many people, so I like had this like tough persona, but I would run into a spider web and freak out. And my professor was like, we were talking about fears. It was like a philosophy class or something like that, and he suggested, part of facing your feet, like you do like some exposure therapy essentially, and suggested I get a pet tarantula because it was something I could keep in the dorms, and they wouldn't give me a hard time about. So that's what I did, and I was scared to death of it, but I took care of it, learned a lot about it, and the more I learned about him, and the more time I spent with it, the more fascinated I became with its behavior, and it just kind of grew from there to like all these different types of arachnids and insects and things like that.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, you faced him. Yeah, you got that shit down. Oh yeah.
I can imagine that, the tarantula hobby, an insect hobby, it's a lot easier to get in trouble, man. 'Cause, I mean, you can just bring anything home in these little tiny little containers, just have them everywhere.
Yeah, I remember there was a time probably like 5 years ago or so. My wife was like, "That's enough. No more tarantulas. You've got plenty." And I was like, "All right." And I still kept. Like, I think when I said that, I had already placed an order, and it was going to take him a couple weeks to ship. So it's like, well, those are coming in. And then, a long story short, I had a whole bunch of spiderlings, so I pretty much put them in a cabinet. And I just kept them in there, and I had like a little red light on there so I could see what I was doing, but she wouldn't see the enclosures out. And I forgot to turn that light off once, and she came down the basement and saw a red light emanating from this little cabinet, opened it up, and then found like 20 more spiders. I was like, yeah, I'm in trouble now.
So, do you breed, I guess, is that?
No, I mean, I have a few times, but that's not the part of the hobby I really enjoy the most. Like, I really like photographing them and taking care of them and observing them, which is what got me into doing the photography and the videography.
Okay, definitely. So when you say spiderlings, do you mean like hatchlings, like little babies?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so the little
they depending on the species. I mean, when they start out, they're about the size of like a tiny little house spider. It's very small. They fit on your fingertip. And but then they start molting, and each molt they get a lot bigger, and until they're full grown.
Like how many of them is in a clutch? No, is that the right word?
I mean, it would be. Again, it depends on the species. Some of them, you may only get a couple dozen or maybe a couple hundred, but then there's other species that you can get 1,000 or 2,000.
Yeah.
Which is another reason that I don't breed, because I don't want it. Because if you breed, then you have a whole bunch of them, and you got to worry about taking care of thousands of spiderlings and selling them or wholesaling them. And I don't want to do that.
My brother-in-law, he just had a batch of some communal. They're communals, but he's got them in like batches of 5s. And it's a pain in the butt to keep these little tiny little things.
Yeah.
In batches of 5. He'd open up this. It's crazy, man.
Yeah. So it seems like of the people that we've talked to so far on the show, you differ in the fact that you've gone a different route with this. You love the animals and you love keeping them part of the hobby, but
yeah.
As far as making it like a huge part of your life and maybe quote unquote your business, you've gone a completely different route from someone, who wants to produce a bunch and go to shows and stuff like that. And you've gone the whole social media and YouTube route. Did it start with YouTube, or did you just start on like Instagram and Facebook, or how did that go?
Well, I think technically it started on Instagram. It was, I want to say I got a whole lot of respect for the people that do the breeding, whether it's reptiles or arachnids or whatever. That just didn't appeal to me for a lot of different reasons. But I mean, I think it's important that people are breeding, especially like, I don't know how it is in the reptile hobby, but in the US there's, there's a lot of species that just, they have to get imported because nobody's breeding them here, or only a few people are breeding. So I always want to like encourage breeding if you have the capabilities to take care of them and get rid of them and get them out in the marketplace. But it's just not something I particularly enjoy. Like I enjoyed taking photos of them and sharing them on Instagram. And it was shortly after I got married, and my wife was kind of like, you're freaking out my family with all the spider pictures, because they want to know who I am, and they're following me on social media and stuff. And I'm just like flooding all these pictures of tarantulas. So she suggested that I open up a second Instagram account. And I was like, that's a good idea. I'll do that. And so I just named it the Tarantula Collective. And was post my pictures there, and I didn't know anything about photography, so it was kind of like I'm learning to take photos as I'm posting them. So it was kind of like keeping tarantulas. And maybe it's just because where I live, there's not a lot of people. There's like 3 or 4 people maybe in town that keep tarantulas, and I don't really know them. So I wanted to kind of connect with other people that shared, my passion. And, so that was what I was like, if I share these pictures, then I'll find people that also like them, and maybe, find some communities. And that's what happened. And I started getting followers, and people were asking questions. And I was like, well, let's start a Facebook group and have the conversations over there, because it'd be a lot easier to talk in a group than it would be in the comments under, message pictures on Instagram. So then from there, that's where the YouTube channel came. Is just like I got tired of answering the same question over and over again. I was like, I'll just make a video and explain how I made this enclosure, and then people can, when they asked, I could just show them the video.
Yeah,
and that was like, it wasn't ever a thought of this would be a career or this is something I enjoy doing. It was almost out of like just laziness. I was like, I'm tired of typing the same thing over and over again. So, and it'd be easier if I could just show you, so, I did that, and I enjoyed watching YouTube. So I tried to make it cool, as I could with a cell phone and like not with no editing experience. So I watched a lot of YouTube videos on how to make that YouTube video, and I was like, it was like a one and done. I figured in the future something else will come up, and I'll make a video addressing that question at that point, and it would just kind of be a resource for the Facebook group. And then those videos, like I essentially got positive feedback on them, and I was like, oh, you like those? I'll do some more. The ego kind of got involved, but yeah. And I just, the more I worked on it, the more I enjoyed learning about cameras and learning about, filming stuff and editing and making videos. And so, it just kind of organically transformed my life over the course of a few years.
Good, man. Yeah, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I do actually enjoy your videos on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, and I've only really just sort of come in contact with it slightly before I met you in person at the Reptile Show a few weeks ago. Maybe a month ago now. I don't know how long ago it was, to be honest. It was a little while ago.
It was.
I mean, I'll confess the whole tarantula interest on my end started with another YouTube channel called The Dark Den. I'm sure you're familiar. You probably watched some of his videos. Yeah. And I just watched him for like an entire summer, and I was like, I gotta have a tarantula now. So the next show I went to, I bought an Arizona blonde, and I had it for a good while. It was doing great. And then we went on vacation, and my brother-in-law was here taking care of stuff. It didn't kill you. My brother-in-law was here taking care of stuff, and I came home to find the enclosure like just cracked open and no spider. And then like 2 weeks later, my son came to me. He's like, I found your spider. I looked under the bed where it was, and it was all balled up and dead. I was like, oh, man.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So I waited probably like a month or so, and I got now I have a Mexican red rump. So, and I'm using common names because I don't know all the.
I won't judge you.
I'm a reptile guy. Like, cool, you can I can spit names, but man, when it comes to the spiders, I don't know all the Latin names.
I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again since we have the Spider-Man. Ooh, the Spider-Man.
I'm not the Spider-Man.
The Spider-Man.
He's a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
No, so anyway, right after they get back from that, I go to his house for a visit for a week. And I think it's become very clear that I am like terrified of spiders. I love them. I think they're gorgeous. I love to see them in pictures and everything, but they just, they get to me. And that he didn't know where that spider was in the house the entire time I was there, and he never told me. And luckily, I never even looked at the enclosure.
Yeah, most of the time,
I wouldn't tell you either.
Thing anyway.
Yeah, it's harmless. It's not going to hurt you.
I know. It's just I don't know, man. Speaking of harmless, do you got anything that could hurt you?
Not really. No. I mean, I guess technically there's a few scorpions that it potentially could put up. Nothing that could kill you. It's nothing like a venomous
Ruin
snake.
Your day, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, most of them, if they bit you, it would just hurt. More from the fangs than from the venom. A few of the old worlds, might cause some muscle spasms and things of that nature. But I don't know. I have a limited amount of experience with snakes, but from the experience I do have, I've been bit by my snakes a couple of times. Just from just a feeding response, and they grab my finger. I've never been bit by a tarantula, so you really gotta upset them to get them to tag you, especially the New World ones, like the one roaming around his house. Like you would have to spend I don't know, a good amount of time just poking and prodding and trying to get that spider angry before it would ever bite you. And then if it did bite you, its venom is pretty much harmless.
Yeah.
So, you would be
the red
fine.
rump is a little spicier. He's a little quicker to like jump at you and throw hairs.
Yeah.
Than the Chuck Booties was. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just what
That's
I've
been
noticed.
my experience too.
I don't mess with him. I just I wait an appropriate amount of time so I know he's hungry and he takes bugs very readily. I make sure he's got some moisture in some of his soil and he's got fresh water and he's good to go. He's the easiest thing in the house.
I'm glad you said that because I made a video a year or two ago. I think it's like one of my most viewed videos. It's up there, but it's about like what I was calling like dangerous tarantulas, or I think that was the word. Like they're very defensive tarantulas, and I mentioned that species. Like most of them are old world tarantulas that are a lot faster, and either they don't have urticating hairs, so sometimes they're a little more prone to give you a threat pose. But every Vogons I've ever had, or Mexican red rump, has just been a little tear, like just a stressed out little ball of anxiety, always giving me threat poses, constantly kicking hair. So I said that in the video, and I got so much hate. People were like, "How are you going to put a New World tarantula on there?" So I was like,
I mean,
that's just my experience. But I know other people have had that experience.
I mean, yeah, the first month that I had him, I mean, I was pining over him a little bit more and trying to make sure that he was okay and paying a lot more attention to him. And he had a bald spot on his rump the entire time that I was doing, because every time I would move the enclosure, I'd be like, "What's going on, man?" He'd be like, "Get away from me!" Just throw hairs in my face. Yeah, so now I don't bother him too much. Yeah, I don't bother him too much, and he's pretty happy with that.
I've been observing the chat while you were talking.
Yeah,
my wife has a lot of questions. But I'm going to pick my favorite one, and I also had the same question. So great.
All right.
When you talk about watching their behavior, Gabe's doing front flips again. When you talk about watching their behaviors, what kind of behaviors are you watching? That interests you? There's a whole part of that I missed. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty basic. They don't do a whole lot. Just watching them walk. Like I don't know if that makes any sense, but if you watch this, that's why I like doing the video so much. Is like how I kind of got into that. It was I just get fascinated by watching how different species move. Like you think a spider just moves the same way, but like the way that the legs move, like there's like a pattern to it, and I don't know, it's interesting to watch. Just because, I mean, like there's differences in sizes and colors and stuff like that, but some of them will stick their abdomen, like their butt, kind of up in the air, almost like at a 90-degree angle when they're walking, and they'll like kind of get up. Others will like lay really flat on the ground and kind of like slink across, and I don't know, it's just it's fascinating, and just what they react to, because the way that they perceive the world is so much different than how other mammals or even some reptiles perceive it. It's almost like they're aliens on the planet, and it's like you kind of get to study them because their behaviors. I mean, they're covered in that setae and that, like all those hairs, and that's where they get the majority of their information. So like they have 8 eyes, but they don't see very well. They can kind of see dark and light, maybe make out some motion, but that's about it. Most of their perception comes from those hairs, what they can feel the air molecules moving and sense different chemicals in the air and stuff like that, and kind of get a sense of what it's, so just seeing what I would react to based on like sound and hearing compared to what they react to, like somebody walks in the room and that could startle them just because they could feel the wind getting pushed from the door getting opened. Yeah. Like that I wouldn't even notice.
That's crazy.
I heard this thing many years ago, and it's been in the back of my mind ever since, and I've not told it to people because I don't even know if it's true, but I'm going to ask.
Okay.
The way they move their legs, does that have anything to do with like almost like a hydraulic process that's going
exactly,
on?
Yeah.
Okay, somebody
they don't have bones, they don't have muscles.
The way they do what?
The way they move their legs, the way they locomote.
Just the way they walk. Oh, I thought you were talking about a specific behavior. Okay,
yeah. No, like when the leg is extended, they pump hemoglyph into it, and then when they want to kind of restrict it, then they just pump the hemoglyph out.
That's cool as shit.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay, so I was told correct. Awesome.
You were.
I just
Oh,
it's
you
just
were
been in the
told
back of my
that, Nick?
mind. I'm like, yeah, somebody told me that. I don't remember who.
Oh, I thought you
But,
made an
yeah.
observation. I was about to say that's a hell of a.
No, I didn't just make that observation. I'm
That's
no
a good
entomologist.
memory, Nick. That's a good
Yeah.
shitty observation, but it's a good memory.
I mean, and that's
Yeah.
just one example of all the reasons I find them fat. Like the way they breathe, they have book lungs. So if they're not moving, they really don't need to breathe very much, you know. So that's why they sit still for so long. It's almost like your computer just kind of shuts down and goes into sleep mode, and then once they start moving around, they'll start breathing again. And you know,
that's cool.
that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but you know,
Yeah,
things like that, how they eat, like dissolving the prey outside of the body and then kind of sucking it in is just alien and weird.
How do they actually get the stuff out? The innards that are dissolved by the venom.
Well, it's like the venom kind of paralyzes the prey, and I'm not an expert on this, so like anytime I talk about it, somebody always comes around and corrects, you know, one of the terms I used or something like that, because it's, you know, that's kind of like more the science aspect of it.
Yeah.
But
Fuck
generally,
famous terms.
they, you know, they paralyze it with the prey, and then they kind of secrete this like digestive enzyme out of like, you know, their mouth essentially. And that just kind of slowly starts breaking down the prey. You know, it doesn't break down a lot of the calcium, like essentially the bolus will just be like whatever bones or shells or, you know, exoskeletons, so it's just all the kind of like muscles and organs and stuff like that. And it just gets broken down into this goopy liquid that it sucks into its mouth, filters out all the particles.
That's fine.
Then they're sucking the liquid in through the same hole that the venom was coming out, right?
No, the venom comes from the
fang
fangs,
hole? Or is there
and then like right
part?
here, there's a little bit of a
Right.
mouth. Like I don't know, it's hard to describe.
All right.
It kind of looks like I mean, did you watch Star Wars? the pit that
Sarlacc pit.
yeah, the Sarlacc pit. That's it. It kind of looks like that in a way. I mean, not really, but it's that same kind of idea. Just on a much smaller
Is it like
scale.
a proboscis, like on a fly almost, like the little thing just kind of comes out to drink, or no? Is it different?
No. I mean, I don't have a picture, and I don't want to pull a tarantula
Yeah, I
out
don't
just to
wanna-
show
I'm
you
not
that
gonna- I'm
area
not gonna-
because it may
No,
not
no,
like
of course
that.
not. Yeah,
But yeah. I mean, I probably got a picture on my Instagram. But anytime you see like a tarantula in a threat pose, you'll see the fangs here, and then just almost like a little slit, kind of like I don't want to get graphic, but yeah, and that's what it. So nothing like comes out.
Yeah.
It just kind of like pulls it in and holds it in with its pedipalps and its fangs, and then just kind of just slurps up the goop.
Damn, right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, watch one of my like on Instagram. I've got some reels and stuff of tarantulas feeding, and you can kind of see like the close up of like the cricket's head kind of sticking out, which is a little brutal. But you could see it kind of like crunching everything up underneath its, underneath the fangs and getting it to that chelicerae or however you pronounce that.
I feel
I think you
dumb.
got it right. I've heard it called that. Yeah.
Knocked it out of the fangs, man.
What?
That's what I thought too. Honestly, I've been spent all this time thinking that they inject venom with the fangs, and then they just start sucking up liquid through the fangs.
like a vampire or something.
Yeah. Honestly, that's what I thought. I feel dumb.
I knew they didn't do that, but I wasn't sure how they got it out. That's why I had to ask.
Yeah, I had no idea. And I have one. I don't pay attention to that stuff. I'm just like, as long as he's eating his food and he's getting bigger and he stays hydrated, it's probably fine.
Are there any?
Well, that's kind of some of the behavior I'm talking about that I find fascinating is just how they eat. It's so weird. And that's why I like doing the videography and the macro photography, because I can get so much closer, you know, and sometimes I can't even enjoy it in the moment because it's like on this little screen on the camera. So I just making sure I'm pulling focus. But then when I get on the computer, it's like even if I didn't make YouTube videos, I would still be doing that just to get those like intense up close shots and seeing how that process works.
Man, that's bad.
I feel like I'm nerding out here. I'm sorry.
Oh no,
bro,
that's
you can never
exactly why
nerd
you're
out
here,
here.
man. That's what we
You
like.
could never nerd out here, man.
Yeah, we like
You
that.
could never do
Um,
that. I
to
think I'm going
address-
to show my experience with this question. Are there any spiders that eat like rodents or like, small mammals or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much any terrestrial New World tarantula generally is referred to as a bird eater, because that was a common misconception, was that the tarantulas would eat birds. And like when the Spanish came over and were exploring South America, they came across it, and I think that was like the famous drawing of that tarantula kind of got circled around Europe, and people were like fascinated because there's a bird-eating spider over there. And I guess the general consensus now is that the bird probably died and fell to the ground, and the tarantula came over and started eating it. It wasn't like it could catch it, because what was pictured is the Goliath bird eater tarantula. It's like one of the largest species, but they can't climb trees, So and they're very heavy bodied. So they if they tried, they would probably die because they would slip and fall, and just it wouldn't be good for them. So that how could that tarantula have actually captured a bird unless it was sick or already dead, or maybe it just doesn't seem like it could catch an actual live healthy bird. But I digress. They can, I guess, is what the short answer, but it's not really necessary. Like my snakes, they got to eat mice and rats. Tarantulas will do perfectly fine on roaches and mealworms and crickets and whatever invertebrate you want to feed them. And it's a lot better, especially if you got a large collection, because the cleanup's not bad. Like they pretty much did 90% of it. They end up digesting. So the bolus is just this little tiny piece of charcoal looking thing. It almost looks like black foam or something. And you can pick that up, throw it away, and you're good to go. And it's not like, it looks like a charred cinder. Whereas if you feed them a mouse or a gecko or something like that, like those little house anoles, people like to feed them sometimes. I've even fed some of mine sometimes. But there's a much nastier mess of, if you can imagine a little mouse or something, like a pinky mouse getting dissolved, like the bones, and it smells bad, and it's a mess. So I don't do it because I don't want to clean it up. And
makes sense.
And it risks it, especially if it's live. It risks hurting the tarantula. A tarantula versus a mouse the tarantula's got an advantage, but that mouse could still take off a leg pretty easy. So you don't want to do it if you don't have to.
So, do you keep I want to say like true spiders too, or just tarantulas?
Yeah. I didn't start. I just started with tarantulas for a long time. It wasn't until maybe the past 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, like
true spiders, like black widows, or pretty much like all tarantulas are spiders, but not all spiders are tarantulas. Like it kind of branches off there.
I got the
fascinated.
Yeah. So there's a lot of megalomorphs, which aren't really true spiders either, but they're not tarantulas. They're kind of like in between. Like they're like big hairy house spiders. That's a terrible, but they're like a junior tarantulas in a sense.
I now know those exist. I'm not gonna sleep.
Well, you know what wolf spiders are. They're they kind of look like that, like bigger wolf spiders, huntsman spiders. Those are pretty popular.
The fishing spider, fucking terrifying.
Yeah. Those things are cool.
They're cool, but they're huge.
Yeah.
I saw a video last night on Facebook, said Aussie girl can't kill invincible spider. And it was in Australia. I think it was one of the big huntsmen was on her wall, and she was just spraying it and spraying it and spraying it and spraying it, and it just kept coming, and it just kept coming, and it just kept coming. I was like, I felt bad for the spider, but I felt bad for her. I didn't know who to feel bad for. I was like, geez, that spider is tough, man. Everything in Australia wants to get you.
Yeah. Well, it's also when you think about the way spiders breathe, it's like a mammal is in and out, in and out, in and out constantly. Right. So spraying it with a chemical is going to take it down a lot faster than a tarantula that only needs to breathe when it needs a little bit more oxygen. So it's not breathing as much or as often.
Yeah. So it's basically just getting particles on the outside of its body and just keep coming.
Like it would eventually die, but it's going to take it a lot longer. That's spraying a spider is not the best way to kill it.
Like a top of
to address a question from another viewer on here, Mr. E 719, he just wants to know. It's going to be probably the hardest question you get asked all night. What's your favorite? That's always the hard question for us people. Yeah.
Oh no, I got asked that so much. I just locked in my answer. I was like, this will be it. Like, so I always have an answer on deck. And it's the green bottle blue tarantula, the Chromatopelma cyanopubescens.
Hey Nick, pull that up.
And that's not even like a lie or a cop out. Like some people say, oh, that's a basic answer, but when I'm honest with myself, if I could only keep one tarantula, it would be that one because it kind of embodies everything that I like about it. It's got a good size, beautiful colors, like reds and greens and blues.
That's what I was gonna say. Because the way you just said that name, it sounded like a whole bunch of stuff, and usually the longer the name, the prettier the animal. So I don't
and it goes in stages. Like you get a tiny sling, and it's it is like orange and black, but then as it molts, it starts getting green legs on top of the orange and black, and then it starts looking like that when it gets adult. So it doesn't look anything really like it does as a spiderling as it compared to it as an adult. So you get to watch that whole transition as well. And it webs up. It's extremely heavy webber.
Did you call the spiderling a sling?
Yeah.
That's
I enjoy that.
sling.
I'm good. I don't know when that's ever going to come up, but when it does, I'll be ready. I'll be ready.
It's a pretty amazing spider. I know that they do. A lot of them go through crazy transitions, right? I was watching one of your videos the other day. You were talking about one of the, I think it was one of the pink, maybe the Caribbean pink toe, and not the Vicularia, the one that starts out
Carabina
like
Versicolor.
Blue. That's it.
Right.
It starts out blue, and then it was crazy.
Yeah, and it goes more of a turquoise color, and then turns into that red, and that's probably my second favorite. Or it's in the top 5. We'll say that.
I think it was your video where you were like top 10 that nobody else talks about. Like, yeah, that's good. Yeah, pink toes were cool, man. Me and Gabe, we used to work in a pet store. Charles worked in there for a little bit as well. Pink toes and rose hairs were always the staple in that store for tarantulas that we had. And pink toes are. I kind of like to think the pink toes are like the crested geckos of the tarantula world. They're pretty friendly. They're not going to really hurt you, and they jump like freaking crazy. That was
true.
my experience. Yeah.
I think the first one I ever actually held, well, the first and only one, was at the store, and I think it was you and Gabe made me hold a rose hair. It was like on my arm.
It was the first tarantula I ever got, but that was like the only tarantula I could find back then. It was that was all the store had. My favorite thing about the pink toes, like I agree, they are kind of like crested geckos in the tarantula hobby, but the Avicularia as a defense mechanism will shoot poop at you when it tries to get away.
What?
It's one of my favorite little fun facts.
I never had that happen that I'm aware of. That's
I've never even thought about what tarantula poop looks like.
I got plenty of it if you want to see. It looks like kind of looks like bird poop, to be honest.
Oh wow!
I kind of imagined that.
Like, I don't know, can you see the white?
Yep.
Yeah. So it comes out of its burrow right here. I mean, this is a arboreal one, but it's hidden back here, and it'll climb up and then just shoot its poop out.
Just shoot it out.
No shit.
Yeah.
That's fucking
No, a lot of shit. That's what I'm saying.
A lot of shit. Yeah.
Not no shit. I'm just kidding. But yeah. I mean, but those like Poecilotherias, that was an HMAC. They're old world tarantulas. They don't really do that as a defense mechanism. They just don't want to poop in their burrow, so they just make me clean it up off the side of the glass. But the Avicularia, they don't have very strong venom, and they'll just turn around and I don't know if it's got to be on. They have really good aim, so I can't. Like, I would think it's kind of like a bird poops before it takes off to go fly. You would think it's something like that, but I mean, they position that sucker and will shoot in your general direction. And you're just like, well, all right, I will leave you alone.
You think about how that evolves as a defense memechanism. It's like one guy is just like, he survived to pass his genes on, but he was also a really good shot with his shit. And then, it just evolves from there. It's crazy.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I would think if you're a predator, like a bird or something, you caught a face full of poop or, maybe something is smelling, that's your main sense, and it just covers you in the smell of poop. It's going to be a lot harder to track it. But I mean, I don't know. I'm not a biologist.
You know how disrespectful that is? To have a little ass spider shoot shit all over you. The most disrespectful thing that could happen.
It's so funny. It's not like it stinks or anything. I mean, it's like a white chalky powder. You're just like, that's gross.
It's like, that came out of you.
That's funny.
I don't really know what it is, but yeah.
You ever had any like bad experiences, man? Maybe get bit or?
No, never been bit. That's like I get asked that a lot, and I mean it's been. I got my first one in 2000. No, never got stung by a scorpion either. But I mean, again, if you got it in an enclosure and you're using tongs and you're respecting it, then it's You know, most of the people that get bit or stung are handling it or putting it on their face or doing something crazy, or sometimes maybe just rehousing them and being nervous or not prepared, or, you know, kind of get a little, I don't know, I want to say anxious, but tarantulas can bolt. They can be fast, like all of a sudden. Like they're not moving, and then they take off. So you kind of got to be ready for that, even if you're, you're ready, but you got to just, I think it comes with experience, but you just kind of get a little calmer in that situation. It takes off and you don't freak out and drop stuff, you know? You're just like, all right, I'll let you run for a second, because they can't run forever. It's like a mammal that can just, like, they got so much energy stored up. That battery's going to die pretty quick. So,
yeah.
But yeah, if you respect him, give him space, and nothing to worry about. I mean, the worst experience I think I would have had would be a tarantula escaping. And that's not because I was fearful for me or anyone that lives in my house. I was more afraid of my wife and what would happen if she found out there was a loose tarantula in the house.
Man, I'll tell you.
I was surprised at how chill my wife was with the whole loose tarantula thing. I was like, the tarantula's gone. She's like, interesting. All right. I was like, oh,
like, I don't even think she would be like worried about the tarantula. I think she would be, because she knows a lot about him just from having to listen to me talk about him all the time. I think she would be more like embarrassed, you know, like if somebody came over and a tarantula walked across the floor. Like,
oh yeah,
that's why I would get in trouble.
Yeah, that's just gonna live in the back of her mind until you find the tarantula as a possibility.
Neighbor's gonna come over and get a cup of milk. There's a tarantula climbing up the wall. Yeah.
Oh my god, it's crazy.
That's hilarious, man. So
I got lucky. I mean, she's cool with this, so it's
supportive significant others are the best. I mean, there are geckos literally all over our apartment, so I'm feeling the support. Trust me.
Yeah, man. I can say the same thing. I get the support. That's why I got so much stuff.
Yeah, well, you're with an addict too, so
it sounds like you all are enabling each other.
Yep,
that's exactly it. That's literally it.
That's a sick relationship, my friend.
It's only going to get worse now that you have more space.
Oh yeah.
Like,
not that space ever mattered before, but
craziness.
It's like you know when you see these like movies and stuff where like a little devil pops up on one shoulder, and then like a little angel pops up on one shoulder. Well, I got my little devil, her over here, like another little devil, like bye.
Just do it. Just get it. Just do it.
Can they be kept together as adults or
something?
Hey. Are you talking to me, or are you talking about him and his wife?
I know the answer to that question, and that's most of the time.
I don't recommend cohabitation, but we're making it work.
But can tarantulas be kept together? Was that the real question?
That's the question.
Yeah. A few species can, like, I'd say 95% are pretty solitary. So if you put two of them in the same enclosure, it would be like one would eat the other one. So that'd be the long and the short of it. But there are, let's see, the Monocentrophus balfouri, which I'm pointing off screen. I don't know why. The enclosure's right here, but you can't see it. So you just got to believe me. And I've got 3 of them in this enclosure. I've got another one with 4, and then a large Neohetheli, or the Trinidad olive tarantula. So this is the Socotra Island blue baboon. So we're not using fancy Latin words. Those can be kept communally. The Trinidad olive.
I just don't know when it comes to spiders.
But I just feel pretentious when I'm talking. I'm saying Neotheliense. Nobody has any clue what I'm talking about. It's like, yeah, I'm the asshole in this situation.
I like to do it with reptiles, so.
Well, then you're an asshole. I'm just kidding.
Yep, that's me. I'm the asshole. It's a little bit of enjoyment I get out of life. It's like, I know this, and you don't, but you know everything else. I don't, so we're good. I know what the scientific name of that obscure little gecko is, but you got your whole life figured out, so congratulations.
Congratulations.
Oh my god.
It's great, man.
Yeah. So maybe like 5 species out of 1,000, if that makes sense.
That actually
can be kept communally. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
It's crazy.
perfect sense. I said I was talking about it last week too because we knew you were coming on. Do you? I don't even know what it is, but I call it the sandy boy, the little spider that like buries itself in the sand.
Oh
The
yeah,
sand boy.
Dolomites. I don't remember the species, but yeah, six-eyed sand spider is the common name.
Six? Is it 6 eyes? What the fuck's that about?
Yeah,
You like getting a
that's
bar
just
fight?
how it evolved.
It has 6 eyes.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Do you have one of those?
I did. It recently passed away.
That would be
yeah,
the
that's-
only spider I'll ever own in my life.
That was kind of one of those spiders that I wasn't afraid of it, but it's up there with some of the most venomous spiders. Like it could
Oh,
it
is it
could
really?
it could hurt you. And so I had it just because like my kid's 13, and we got a 3-year-old here, so the kid doesn't come down the basement or anything, but like any of the scorpions or true spiders that pack more of a punch, I kind of have them in double enclosures, if that makes sense. Like I have them in their enclosures, which they can't get out of unless I do something stupid and leave it open. And then, sorry. But then I put that enclosure inside of a larger enclosure. And and so yeah, so even if they got out of that enclosure, they'd be stuck into a larger enclosure and they couldn't get out of. So I had it in there. I don't remember where I was going with that, as I had to take a quick jab at Nick. But yeah,
Middle of trying to drink my beer too, man. So I didn't know they were venomous. It's not gonna stop me. I might get one still.
Yeah.
They're just so cool.
No, you're not.
What?
You're not going to get one. You're not going to get a standing boy.
They're all venomous.
yeah, they are. Every single one of them's venomous.
I'm challenging you in my own way, the way that I know that works for you. You're not going to do
Are
it.
you saying that on Elon Musk? Is that what you're putting that on right now? I'll buy one tomorrow.
On Elon Musk. Yep.
I'll buy one
And
tomorrow.
I don't want to give you the impression that they're dangerous. Like they're venomous, but it's a situation. Like I kept mine in kind of a tall enclosure with some sand. Big true spiders, they can't climb the glass with the acrylic, so there was no way for it to escape unless I like knocked it over. Which is why, having kids, I kept that in a double enclosure, not because I was afraid of it, but I just didn't trust a kid or a cat to not knock it over.
Yeah.
But as long as as long as you're
Really considering, like, not really considering it. I thought about it, but I've been wanting, like,
You've been told you can't get one
I've been wanting to get
publicly online now by your wife.
like, I'd love to have a big rattlesnake or like a copperhead or something like that because I think they're so freaking cute.
Well, you're going to have a serious talk with your significant other because you tried to get me to get you a cane toad when I was in Florida, which I had one for you already ready to go. And next thing you know, it's like, nope, you
have a
can't take that
child,
home
son.
because
You do not
because
need
we have a
a-
child.
You do not need any
I got a
hots.
2-year-old.
You don't need any hots, bro. You have a child.
My point is
It's not even about the I mean, it is about the kids for me, but it's honestly just about personal preference. Like I have no desire to keep those things in my house. You know?
I would
Yeah.
like to keep a copperhead. Because, I mean, that thing's not going to kill you. You get some gnarly
Cool,
necrosis,
but
but a little necrosis.
yeah.
no, thank you. I'll see mine in nature and we'll go our separate ways. I'm not inviting it in my house.
Yeah, I mean that's why.
Oh, so you actually, I meant to ask you earlier, you mentioned snakes. What do you have?
I've got a Eastern king snake, California king snake, ball python, a banana calico ball python, and then a Pueblan milk snake.
Ooh.
Nothing fancy.
I love it. I don't know. I
Eastern
love-
Kings are so cool, man.
I love colubrids in general. And then my
Yeah.
wife really wanted that ball python. I was like, if you take care of it, you can have it. And I'm just kidding. Yeah. But it's like, she's like, you take care of the
There's
other
the guy with
snakes.
200 tarantulas, right?
It's like, you're down there anyways. Just feed him. All right. He's a cool little ball python. Yeah.
Oh, and you have 2 geckos now too. I heard through the grapevine that you have 2 crested geckos now.
Yeah.
One
I
of which
do.
I may know something about. I've seen it before.
Yeah.
Shameless plug.
Shameless.
Thank you for the plugs, by the way. Appreciate that. That was nice to see.
Thank you for the
me being
gecko.
all stuttery and nerdy on your video. I liked it.
I edited out most of the stutters. You should give me credit. I'm
You
just
did.
kidding.
It wasn't too bad. It was like this is a pinstripe. I only have pinstripes. That's all I have is pinstripes.
I thought you sounded very good.
You can have any.
Oh yeah, no, it was good. I enjoyed
enjoy.
talking to you and meeting you, man. I was excited that you were going to be at the show because I had heard through the grapevine from the guy who does the show that you might come, and I was like, that's cool, man. That's cool.
Yeah.
We don't get a lot of people who have a reach like that at the shows, and I appreciate that you did such a good job making the show look good. Like in general, the video was awesome.
That
The
was a cool
cinematography. I'm gonna
video.
call it cinematography. It's not videography. It's cinematography. It looked good.
Thank you.
You did the show justice, man, and I appreciate that because I've been wanting to like film our show for a while, but I'm afraid I just won't do it justice. So now we're good. We got it out there. People know
I'll
about
tell
our
you
show,
what,
so if they're ever
like,
around,
I
they can
showed-
go to it.
I showed Karen his video, and she wants to go to that show just from watching that video, just because of
Nice.
Oh yeah,
This is the cool setting, bro.
it was a cool setting. That particular.
Yeah, I mean,
show
I've
was
been
cool.
to not like a lot of reptile expos, but I really like that one a lot. Like just the concept of oddities and exotic pets.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's been done before, but I had never seen it, and I was just like, this is amazing. Like, why aren't all of them like this?
A reptile show in a haunted prison is metal as fuck.
It's cool, man.
Yeah,
The only
but
thing
then
that make
having
it
it
better,
in a haunted prison.
So,
yeah.
That's
And just
fucking
like weird
metal as fuck.
so-
The only thing that would make it better is if we could get inside the prison. My idea was that like every
Yeah.
booth is in a jail cell, and you just have to like walk down the the cell
I don't
block
know, man.
and go
You've
into
seen
that. That would be
those
cool.
jail cells? They are tiny, like a little
I
closet.
hear they're
You
not
couldn't-
letting
It's not
anything
good.
out.
It's not good for anybody but me. I have a small thing going on, so small tables it'll work. But if you need 2, 3, 4 jail cells, so be it.
yeah.
No, it's cool. It's cool.
I was like, I mean, honestly, I was a little disappointed. Like, I don't know. I've been to that prison so many, like not as a prisoner, but like I've visited that prison, and I know what it looks like. But in my head, I was like, it's going to be in the dining hall or something like that. Like, this is going to be amazing. And then it's like, oh no, that makes sense. They would put it in the activities building in the back where everything that happens at the prison is held. Why would I assume this would be different? But
that's
I
the
tried to
second
make the
time I
video
did
like
that.
not say it was inside the prison. Technically, I don't want to lie, but I did try to edit it so it looked like we were going into the prison and then we're in the reptile. And then people were commenting like, "That's so cool! A reptile show in the basement of the prison." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not going to correct you, but."
Yeah, no, it's cool.
It's
Take
much
what you
cooler
want.
that way.
Cool.
That's
Yeah.
what makes it a great video.
Yep. Yeah, it was great, man.
Standing
It was
like right
awesome.
there, you had like the prison behind you, and it just is like, yeah, I'm going to jail to look at some fucking snakes. What's up?
Yeah. It's surreal just living here and like driving by that, going to a friend's house or something. It's like, oh yeah, that's here in the middle of downtown Moundsville.
Yeah.
Because that's where you would put a huge gothic prison.
Right. Yeah, it is weird that it's there for sure. I had no idea it was there until we did the first one that we had there, which was like back in December. We did just a 1-day show, and it wasn't the oddities thing. It was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and like my wife goes there for trainings all the time for her job, and she's in like children's advocacy. You know what I mean? So it's like they're going in there having meetings about how we should take care of children inside that building in the middle of the prison. It's just where things are. But yeah, it's like that. There's one down in southern West Virginia too. Not a prison, but the haunted asylum.
Prison.
You know what
Oh
I'm talking
yeah, my
about?
wife talked about that one. She's
Yeah.
into all that stuff. She's into that haunted stuff.
Yeah, and my sister-in-law was just down there, and she was like, "Yeah, it's the same kind of vibe as the Moundsville prison. You know, it's like it when you're in there, you feel like you're in like the late 1800s, early 1900s, and then you realize, oh, that didn't shut down until 96. Like that's people were in
Jeez.
there like not that long
There were
ago.
people
Man,
doing time in that place.
I always get infatuated by that stuff, and I would love to go tour like the buildings, but not because like I'm a ghost hunter or something like that. Like I like the old
The
art.
history aspect of it, yeah. But it's like you look at that and you're like, this is inhumane. Like, I'm so glad they stopped doing this in the 20s. And it's like, no, that was 1996.
Yeah.
It's like, God damn.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy. Whew. So you've taken this thing to how long have you been doing the podcast? I guess is what I want to ask you about. And is it the Exotic Animal Collective? Is that what you're calling the podcast?
That is not, but it's close.
No, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't know.
So the
That's what
YouTube
I'm trying to
channel
get clarified.
is the the Tarantula Collective is where I do like the 10-minute videos, and then the Exotic Pet Collective was initially just going to be it was going to be more just because I would post a video about my snakes or my geckos, and not only would not a lot of people watch it, but like in the comments, people would be kind of rude. Like, I don't care about your snakes. I want to see your tarantulas. And it's like, all right. So I cared. So I was like, well, I'll start a second channel and I'll post those videos there. But then I started doing the podcast and I was like, I need a name for that. Well, this kind of ties in. And I was like, and then I could post them on, post the videos on there as well. So people could watch if they don't enjoy listening to Spotify or whatever. So that was what I started doing. So if you like look at that channel, you go back to the beginning, there are a few normal videos in there, but now it's just pretty much the podcast.
Gotcha. Sounds kind of like what we've evolved into here. I still post a video from time to time, but that's not this. But this what we're doing here is just this right now. Haven't moved over to the whole Spotify Apple thing yet. I'm still trying to figure out, what we want to do with that. I know how to get the audio off of these videos. Like I know how to do that now, but I don't know. Bringing myself to pay to get the things hosted for longer than 90 days is kind of tough right now with a smaller.
See, I was the opposite. It was more like I wanted to do the podcast first, like have something that was just audio. And so there's a couple of podcasts that are on the YouTube channel. There's no video at all because I enjoyed that, and it's so much easier to edit. But there was just so many people that were like, "Well, we want to see it. Like, be like Joe Rogan." It's like no, I can't do that. Yeah. This is what I was like, well, we're talking to each other through video anyways. I guess I just hit screen record or, whatever it is here on StreamYard and post that. Yeah. But then if I do any editing where, we get off topic or somebody starts coughing, you know what I mean? Like I do a 2-hour podcast and then I sit through and I edit the 2 hours, which takes like 6 hours. And it's just like, So I have the conversation and then I watch myself having the conversation again. Like immediately.
So, see, you're
I don't like that part.
Which one do I like? Chameleon.
So you,
he goes through every episode and like perfects it basically. Like
kinda, yeah. I mean, it's just like the audio levels and stuff like that. But then now I got to adjust the colors and the lighting. I don't do like a lot like I would for a normal video, but I guess there's just that part of my brain that's like, well, the audio and video has to be synced up perfectly. And so I get in and separate the tracks and try to line up the words to the mouth movements. And it probably doesn't need to be done, but, I do it because I'm a glutton for punishment.
Production's a large undertaking.
I mean, nobody wants to watch a podcast and look like they're watching like an old like Asian martial arts movie,
Exactly. Yeah. Sometimes that's how it is. Like I'm just like I don't care enough today, so we're just posting with my lips out of sync. People have to live with it. It's free. What are they gonna like? If they're paying for it, maybe. Right. But
they're not.
It's free.
They're not
so
paying to watch it.
I'm busy this week.
So are you finding that? I imagine that I know the answer to this question, but are you finding that when you post a video version and then you have the audio version on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever, you're getting way more downloads of the audio than you are views of the video?
It didn't used to be like that at first. It was I was getting a lot more views on YouTube than I was downloads, but it has since shifted. It seems the most people that listen to it they could care less about the video. They just want to hear the conversation.
Right, they're probably listening in their car and stuff like that. And I know that's what I do.
Yeah,
when I listen to a podcast,
a lot of long haul truckers and stuff like that. So they really like the long episodes. It's like I'm glad they're fun to listen to, but they are not fun to edit.
How long?
Yeah, I would imagine not.
Podcast.
A couple years now, like since right before COVID started. It was like I think I had decided to do it and recorded a couple episodes, and then had like some ideas. Like I think I was taking all my podcast gear to Tinley Park that fall, and was like had even like rented like this massive king room that was almost like 2 rooms. So like my wife could be in all the private stuff could be in the bedroom, but then I had like the big living room at the La Quinta or whatever in that little president's suite that I could set up and record podcasts with people, because I was like, there's gonna be so many people there. I could bank a year's worth of episodes, maybe not a year's, but you know what I mean? Like I could get a dozen episodes maybe over the weekend, and then they canceled the show because of COVID. So that's when it started.
We were actually go to that show, and we didn't get to go.
Yeah, we went in 2018 for the first time, and then we finally went back last year. Do you go yearly? You try to go in the fall usually to Tinley?
I try at least the fall, if I can swing it the fall and the spring. But it's like I did that a couple of times, and then COVID has been since. So I went to the one in St. Louis this past year.
Okay.
But yeah, my wife has family in Tinley, so it's very easy to do it that way, you know, because it's like she doesn't have to. I don't have to go by myself, you know, because it's a long drive. It's awesome having the family with me, but then they don't have to stay at the expo with me because I'm usually there, you know, 2 hours before it opens until they kick us out, and then I go out with, you know how it is at expos. You go out with all the people that were vending.
Yeah, we're hoping
and,
that this year we'll really know how it is because we've met so many people. So when we go this fall, we'll actually know people and have people to hang out with and talk to, and it won't be just like, "Hi, I'm a random customer at your booth. Give me Gecko," you know,
yeah,
that type of thing. So
hopefully,
yeah, man. Hopefully we'll see you there.
Yeah.
I see that, but that's like why it's nice that family's there because, you know, I enjoy being at the expo and seeing all the animals and talking to people. But even though like I make videos and I kind of have like a public face, I don't know how to say that. Like in real life, I don't really like hanging out with people. You know, it's like that's why I keep tarantulas in my basement. I would rather just be home hanging out with them. So they're like, "Oh, let's go out to the bar, let's get drinks, let's go out to dinner." And it's like, "Oh no, I gotta go to see the in-laws, my wife." You know, it's like let's go over to their house.
And parents, that's
and like her aunt and uncle are like an older version of us, so we just go over there and sit in their basement and talk about random stuff about life. And I don't know, it's enjoyable. Cool. It's quiet. It's inside.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
not a loud bar.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Very cool, man. Very cool. So, you corrected me in the beginning. So it is the Exotic Pet Collective, is what the podcast is called.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mainly do interviews. Like a couple of them are just me like ranting, but I don't like doing those very much because I feel weird just talking to the ether. But it's a lot. It's like so. I just have kind of like what you're doing. You know, I just I have a guest on, whether it's a YouTuber like Tarantula Cat or another podcaster like Animals at Home. Wiccan's Wicked Reptile was on there, but also talked to like Dr. Rayer. She's like a lead, or she's an entomologist in the Cornell University. So I mean, she's fascinating to talk to. Knows a lot about huntsman spiders and some tarantulas. So it's just stuff like that. People that are kind of dealers, breeders, anybody that's like you see them online or about their business, but it's like, well, how about we get to know the actual person? Like have a conversation beyond just random comments under posts.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah.
Exactly.
Awesome. So definitely anyone who's watching who's not coming over from the fan base of Richard and the Tarantula Collective already, check out the podcast. I'm sure you got links on your website. I put a couple of the separate links in the description of this video, but I also linked your website because you got an awesome thing right at the top that has links to all your stuff. So
yeah, it's
a good centralized place to find all of the Tarantula Collective and Exotic Pet Collective stuff, I would imagine.
Yeah, I got it all centralized.
Yeah.
Arachnophile. It's the same here.
Yeah,
I see you, arachnophiles.
Programming. Hell yeah, man.
Man, I can't even see the comments because I'm on.
Well, you're on your phone, so
because you're 80 years old.
Yeah. And it's like we talked about today. The tap it, swipe it, bop it, twist it with your debit card.
Well, I do have internet. I'm not there.
Our sister said that she didn't even know how to use her debit card anymore. Do you have to tap it, swipe it, bop it, twist it? I said, yeah. I tapped my credit card the other day for like the first time ever, and I felt like an 85-year-old man. I was like, I tapped like this, just tap it, just do it.
It couldn't get much easier. Even a little drawing.
I'm like,
that.
Where's the thing that runs over the card and puts an imprint of it on the receipt on the carbon copy? I want that.
I mean, I'm sure it's not like this in larger cities, but you're in West Virginia. Is everybody in West Virginia, or is it just you and me, Nick?
No,
just us two. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, West Virginia is like a decade behind, especially the smaller towns. So it doesn't matter where I go. I try to tap it, and it's like the looks at the woman at Chevron, like, "What are you doing?" It goes, "You got to stick the chip in there." Like, oh, I thought it was a tapper. She's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. Pay for your gas."
Yeah.
It's like, all right.
like, do you
Yeah,
guys
It's like an idiot
Yeah,
tapping it on the keypad.
I mean, I was working retail at the pet store when the chips first came out, and that was a huge deal. That pissed everybody off. They didn't work.
Oh, that's
like,
right.
when they first came out.
Oh,
They didn't
Sometimes
work
they
at
still
all.
don't.
Yeah, they still don't work. Like I'll put mine in, and it'll be like chip malfunction, and they'll be like, you have to do it 2 more times, and if it malfunctions 2 more times, then you can swipe it, and then if it doesn't
Yeah.
swipe, then you can tap
swiping
it.
it in the first place.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like, here, I have fucking cash, and they're like, we don't have any change. What the
Yeah,
fuck?
no. Wait, cash? What's cash?
Your card's not working. Cash doesn't work here either. Fuck you.
No cash. No.
Oh man.
It's like, do you want my business? Would you like for me to purchase products from your store? No, get out. We don't want you here.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That's joys of living in West Virginia, I guess. And that's another reason that I don't breed is because I'm here in West Virginia and there's not a whole lot of keepers or breeders. I mean, there are breeders. There's tie-dyed tarantula. There's panhandle arachnids. There's a few others, but it's like they got it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, they
the
got it
customer.
covered.
Yeah, there's nothing I could contribute to that in this state. And if what happens with this Lacey Act, legislation goes through, that would be all that I could sell to. So it's like, why would I build my business where it's already, low demand and high supply like that? I couldn't.
Well, like I
So-
said, I mean, I definitely wasn't I mean, I'm a breeder. I set up at these shows. I try to sell online and stuff too. So I have the utmost respect for everybody who does that. I just think it's cool that there's other avenues, that you can go down, and you can turn it into, even if it's just a side business, you can turn it into something that brings something in and at least funds itself. I mean, I know you've graduated to some crazy cool camera equipment over the years from a 4K cell phone to a crazy one of the things I really love that I recently just came across the other night was this documentary series that you're doing where you're actually doing like a full-on nature documentary, but it's not super long. It's like 10 minutes on a species, and you're mixing in footage from the actual habitat, and you're mixing in footage from what I can only assume is like a set that you set up yourself, like in your basement, and it looks so real and natural. Like it just looks.
Well, thank you.
And honestly, one of the things that I thought was really cool about it is like I know that's a set. I know you put that together, but it almost looked like natural sunlight, dude. Like you really had it down. It was really cool. So.
Thanks.
If you haven't looked at the Tarantula Collective YouTube, you definitely need to do it, and you definitely need to check out that documentary series. I assume you're only going to make more over time. I think there's like 4 of them.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Those
But
are my
very
favorite to
cool.
make.
Dude, they're so awesome. I just let them play the other night when I was laying in bed on the TV because they're just so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a
Thank
huge
you.
fan of the nature documentary from back.
Me too.
Steve Irwin hosted nature shows. Sir David Attenborough is the man of men.
Yeah.
and you got a pretty good voice for it too, man. I mean, it sounded good.
Thank
it looked good. Yeah, it was good. So,
Well,
liked it.
I was doing care
That's
videos for a
radio,
while.
Bro.
What's that?
You got the radio voice.
Yeah. Yeah. My mom also told me I had a face for radio. So it kind of works
I know
out.
about that. I know about that. Yeah, you do all right on the video side too. I mean, I think it's important to put yourself out. If you're gonna do YouTube, is just get over it, put yourself out there. That was the big obstacle for me in the beginning. Was like, I didn't like hearing myself. I didn't like seeing myself. And then I just was like, okay, there's probably going to be people who don't like hearing me or seeing me too, but then there'll be.
Bro,
more
I don't
people
like
who
hearing
do,
you
so.
or seeing you either. But
Yeah.
I know you don't, but guess what? After
I
we
just
hang up with
assume
this, you
most
don't have to
people-
hear me or see me for another week. That's my best
But
friend.
I can feel the love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was making those care videos and I got boring because it's not like geckos. I mean, I'm talking about geckos like I know anything about them, but like I'll just say reptiles in general. Depending on where they are and where they live in the world, their husbandry can be drastically different. Like they need certain types of, humidity or UVB or, different diets, and tarantulas are pretty much all the same. You know what I mean? Like there's 4 different types essentially of setups and 4 different stages of life. And you kind of, is it tropical or is it desert is essentially, does it need to be more of a damp substrate or a dry substrate? And there's other subtleties, but that's about the long and the short of it. And I kept making these videos on different species and realized I'm saying the same damn thing over and over again. Like for a spiderling, use this enclosure with this much substrate. It's like, that's what I said in the last 5 videos of different species that were also terrestrial. And I just got tired of repeating myself. And people were asking for more of those types of videos. And I'm like, I'm just going to make 4. Like, these are the 4 different types of enclosures you can have for a tarantula, and just be like, just go watch that, because it is getting. So that's when I came with the idea to try to do little nature documentaries, because I was watching
really cool, man. Yeah.
this one on Netflix. Oh man, it was the guy that played Candyman. Oh, I should know his name. Todd something Todd. Do you have any idea what we're talking about?
I'm
How old
sure,
are you guys?
I mean, I'm 30.
Tony Todd, yes, that's it.
I don't even know how old I am. I'm like 36, 35, 36.
Tony Todd. He's narrating them. So it's called something like Little Creatures or Tiny Creatures or something like that. But it's almost like a horror movie nature documentary, like, because they're focusing on like owls and scorpions and snakes and spiders. You know what I mean? Like the stuff I'm into, creatures of the night, or other predatory things. So it was a lot of like small insects and centipedes and stuff like that. And I knew enough about making videos and lenses and cameras and stuff like that I was able to start spotting, like, okay, they're out there. They've got these like big wide shots of the desert, but this shot of the scorpion would be impossible for them to get out in nature, to get that camera angle with that lighting. Like, I'm trying to figure it out. And then I'm like, they have to have a set, like in a studio somewhere, and they're filming it and under like controlled situation, because just finding that spider in the night in the desert would be extremely difficult. But even if you knew where it was, being able to get it so perfectly lit, especially some of the slow motion shots, I'm like, you may not realize it looks dark in the photo, but if you're shooting like 300 frames per second, it's brighter than like noon outside, like, because there's so many frames and the camera's moving so fast, not a lot of light gets on that sensor, so you have to have an immense amount of light. And I'm like, there's no way they had that lit, and it, in the desert, and the spider didn't run away. So it's like, then I saw at the end of the video, some scenes are filmed under controlled circumstances, and I was like, or under controlled conditions. I was like, what does that mean? So then I kind of like researched it on Google, and I'm like, they build a set. I can build a set. I can do this. Yeah. So yeah, I was like, we'll give it a try. So see if it works. Yeah. And it's funny because every now and then someone will leave a comment like, I'm so proud of you going out into the Arizona desert and getting this amazing footage. I'm like, yeah.
Okay. I mean, that would be awesome if you could do that, for sure. I mean, and I'm sure you'll go. And if you haven't already gone, I'm sure you'll go. I mean, so
yeah,
that's another.
I've been. I didn't see any tarantulas, though.
Did you not? Okay. I was going to say, being that you love these guys so much, I mean, most of, from the herper side of it, we like to keep these things, but we also love to go field herp. Are you someone who likes to do that for the things that you love too? And have you gone to some cool places other than Arizona, which we know you've been to now?
Yeah, that was our honeymoon. We went to Sedona, and because she really wanted to see Sedona and the Red Rocks, and I really wanted to get out in the desert and find some tarantulas. It's like, this is perfect. So we spent a week out there, and it was so frustrating because it was our honeymoon, so I couldn't like go out for hours and hours at a time without her. So it was like we go on hikes, because that's also something we love to do. We just go hiking all the time, and so we were doing that and talking to people that are on the trail, let's say, because there's signs up everywhere, watch out for these snakes and these tarantulas, and people would be like, oh, we just saw a tarantula over here, and we'd scurry over to that location and look, couldn't find anything. Some empty burrows. Went out to Los Angeles, like out in that area, hiked Tarantula Hill and through Scorpion Canyon. Nothing. I mean, I found all kinds of cool insects, but no scorpions, nothing I was looking for. But that's about it. I mean, I had other plans. Like, I was supposed to go out to Sky Islands. Supposed to go out near Joshua Tree, or with a dealer out there, Micro Wilderness. I don't know if it's Joshua Tree. I'm just going off the pictures he sends me. But he knows some places out there in the desert and up in the mountains there that have some really cool tarantulas. He's sending me pictures of hundreds of them that he's finding. Was going to go down to Puerto Rico, but it's like I had all these plans, and then you couldn't fly anywhere because of COVID. And it was like, all right, so we'll just wait on all of that.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I've never been to like South America or anything like that. Though, I mean, that would be cool. But
I'd love
Yeah, I mean, they don't seem to be too difficult to find once you get into like Central America. I spent a couple weeks in Belize in 2019, and we found what I assume is either Vagans or a very similar species. Looks exactly like it. I don't know if they range all the way into Belize or not. To be honest, I never looked into it, but they have little burrows in the ground that come out. So.
You probably don't know because you're not like deep in the tarantula hobby, but like a long running joke and a meme, I guess you could say, is people saying that looks like my B. Vagans. That looks like my Mexican red rump tarantula, because that's like the most common one that everybody has. But there's also a lot of other tarantulas that look very similar to it. Like have a black body with red hair. So everybody's like, oh, that looks like my B. Vagans. And they're like, no, this is an extremely rare species from Peru. Like,
okay.
I'm not making fun of you or anything. I'm just saying.
No, absolutely not. Yeah. I mean,
it could vary. Who knows what it could be? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just a guess. I had no idea. Nobody I was with had any idea. Nobody's a tarantula expert by any means on that trip.
Yeah.
It's weird. I don't hold mine, but I held the ones we found in the jungle. Like I literally held them on my hand, and it got a little sketchy a couple of times.
Yeah, but they're not nearly. I don't know. I've never been out there. But my logical mind would think sometimes tarantulas in an enclosure are a lot more stressed out than ones in nature. Like if that makes sense, because I think that when a lot of times you open up the enclosure, you're kind of like opening up its burrow. You know what I mean? Like it's in its home. You just rip the roof off of it, so it starts out. I'm stressed out. You know. Mm-hmm. Where in nature they're just kind of like, oh, look at this big thing. It's not going to eat me. It's harmless. You know.
Yeah, it chilled on my hand while they took pictures, and then it was like not until I went to try to like kind of brush it off a little bit to let it go on the ground that it like, stood up, put its little front legs up a little bit, and I was like, here we go. All right, let's just get off.
Yeah. I'm surprised. They get a bad rap, man. They're such gentle giants, for the most part. And I'm not talking about like all spiders. There are some crazy freaking spiders out there, but tarantulas, they're really not that bad. And people get freaked out because they'll show footage like in Texas or Arizona or New Mexico or something like that, where like somebody's running, on the side of the road, and this tarantula's like running after them, and they're like, "Look, this tarantula chased me down." And it's like that's not. Yeah, just trying to get in the shade. And it's a male, obviously, so it's wandering looking for a female. So who knows how long it's been in the direct sun, and it sees shade. Like it doesn't know what you are. It just sees dark, cool. I need to go there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the whole snakes chasing you thing on our side of it too. Wild snakes that chase you, and they're not. They're just going in whatever direction they're going. It just so happens to be your direction. They're not literally chasing you. And
I wish a snake would chase me.
I know. I'm always hoping that. Like anytime I'm in the woods, I'm like, man, I wish a snake would just come out of nowhere and start chasing me, because I'd be like, hey, what's up, buddy?
I'm out here looking for you. It'd be so much easier if you just came to me.
Yeah.
I lived down in Daytona Beach for a while, and I was a gas meter for the gas company. Like a gas. I wasn't a gas meter. I read the gas meters for the gas company.
Meter reader.
That was a meter reader. So like walking around, we had to carry a stick with us because we were like they're in bushes, and there are snakes in the bushes down in Florida, or just out in the middle of the yard. And all I ever saw were, for the most part, were just like rat snakes and stuff like that. I thought I came across a couple of rattlers once, but it was just, I don't know if it was a rat snake. It was some colubrid, I'm assuming, shaking its tail in like a little pile of leaves and sticks, making it sound like a rattler.
Almost any snake will shake its tail. I mean, really, it's just I think it's just a good example of like convergent evolution. It's like it's a behavior first before it's a physiological change. So at some point they branched off and produced those structures for rattling.
But a nerd like me, I didn't keep that job for too long because I was really bad, because I kept getting distracted by snakes and spiders, because there's black widows, and I'm in these people's yards, I'm like, ooh, cool, and like looking out their window, like, why is the gas meter standing in our bush? The gas meter.
It's like, why is again?
What's that big ass gas meter doing out there?
Oh man! It's like the meter reader's been out here for like 30 minutes. Are you shutting us? Are you shutting our gas off? Like, what's going on?
Yeah. But I mean, like the little thing that we read the meters with.
Explosion imminent?
they had a little GPS in them, and I knew that, but I just didn't really. I was young. I didn't think about that. So like they knew this route typically takes a meter reader 2.5 hours to do. Why is it taking Richard 4 hours to do? So then they started looking at my GPS and are still like, why is it taking you 2 minutes to get from one meter to the other when typically that's like 20-second walk? And it's like there was a snake and I was looking at it, or there was a cool spider back there, and they're like, we're not paying you to do this. So it's just like all over different neighborhoods in Florida. Like, this is so amazing. Look, there's a manatee.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. My brother actually
I would be the same way.
That's right now. Well, not the gas meter. He does the water. He says he sees snakes all the time.
Oh yeah.
All types of stuff, man. It comes out of the little water meter holes.
Yeah, it's a perfect place for him to hide.
Yeah. Yeah, and I worked animal control for almost 4 years, and I hardly ever saw a reptile.
Yeah.
It's all dogs.
Where?
Dogs and cats. In Virginia, where they live. That's where I used to live.
Oh.
I came back out here to continue my education at Marshall.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Go herd.
That's right. Go herd. It's the only way.
Yeah, you live just a few blocks from where I grew up. So I mean, that's
From where you grew up. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
Damn right, man.
Yeah, we don't mind it out here. We want to continue to live in the area. We just want to move away from this apartment. I want to move away from this apartment. I want what you got. I want a basement. I want a finished basement. It's like a requirement for a house when we buy a house. Is I have to have a finished basement. Like first I was like, well, maybe like an outside building that's like nice and separate. Nope, basement. That's what I want. That seems to be the way. That's like everybody who really does this on any level. That's like, oh, I have like a few hundred of this thing or whatever. What do they breed it or they just keep it? Yeah, you gotta have the basement. It's gotta be right in your house.
No one's happy with what they have, man. Like
I'm happy.
I'm in a basement.
I want to do more, but
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I'm in the basement and I want to get out of here because I want to do more. It's like I got to get out of my basement. And you were talking about the dark den, like the same time I was trying, like I was like, he's got a cool space. He was like written this like office. I wasn't an office space, but he had like a front door. It was outside, and he would go there like he was going to work, and that's where all of his animals were, and it's where his studio was, where he filmed, and. So I'm like, I'm in my basement making these videos. I'm like, I need a space like that. And I'm like, calling all these, and the people in this town probably hate me now because it's like, I want to lease this office space and we'll converse back and forth. And then when I explain what exactly is going on, they're like, no, you can't bring 200 tarantulas into our office building. Like, that's not cool. And I even like
the running theme.
Yeah, and there was a loft, like they redid this nail factory up here, and they made them into loft apartments, and I was like, that's perfect, I'll just get a loft apartment, just a big open space for a studio, and I'll put all my animals in there. And their pet policy was like, well, you can have like 1 dog or 2 cats, and contact us about other things. We'll make arrangements, and they spent a lot of money, flipping this thing into. These cool apartments, so the prices just kept getting cheaper and cheaper, and they're like on the news talking about how they got to rent these. It's they don't want it to flop, and I was like, they'll definitely take me. And then they changed their pet policy to 2 dogs, 1 dog, 2 cats, absolutely no snakes, spiders, or other invertebrates or reptiles. And I was like, that feels a little bit like it's aimed at me. Like you changed that policy right after we talked.
Yeah.
It's like they didn't even know people kept spiders and snakes as pets. They're like, oh yeah, we better scratch that off the list. But anyways, what I was trying to say is I'm trying to get out of my basement at the same time Pecco is like redoing his basement to move everything in there. It's like he has a space and wants a basement. I have a basement. I want a space. So I'm just saying, you'll never be happy. You'll always want something different.
Probably not. Yeah, probably not. That's probably true. I mean, yeah, I do. I mean, I'm like I'm at a point now where I can't grow anymore. I can't do anything new. I can't do new projects, unless I get rid of a project and try to bring in another one, which I don't want to do. So it's like
I spent so much time in Huntington hanging out, living in apartments down there, hanging out, going to parties at apartments, especially in the area you're at. I can just see that door in the background. And in my mind, not only can I envision the layout of your apartment, but the way that it smells. Like I can smell that old West Virginia wood. Like, you know what I mean?
It's a weird layout, right? Like when we came to look at this apartment before we moved here, it was the best choice for us of the ones that we looked at. But I thought the layout was weird because you walk in the front door, which is like over here. That's my son's bedroom behind me. And then you just go down a hallway, and at the end of the hallway is the kitchen, but on the way there's just door, and it's other rooms, and it's a bathroom. It's just a strange little apartment, man. Yeah.
I lived in one, probably very similar to like you walked in the front door, that was the living room, and then there was just a long hallway down the side, and then off to one was the bedroom, then it was the kitchen. But this is where it sucked because the back was like the master bedroom, but the only bathroom was on the other side of the master bedroom. So anybody that was staying there, a roommate or, somebody come by and visit, and then we're hanging out in the living room. They have to walk all the way to the back of the apartment through our bedroom, like around the bed and into the bathroom. I was like, this is the worst layout for an apartment. But that's like how all of them are in Huntington. They're just old houses
they're very
got cut up into apartments.
Yeah, that's what this is. It's a house that's basically been cut up into an upstairs and a downstairs apartment. We have neighbors upstairs, and we're in the downstairs by ourselves. But I've looked at other apartments and places to try to rent, as opposed to buy a place. But it's like they're so weird. Like every other apartment I've seen is way weirder than this one. It's like just like it's random rooms. The kitchen is just like a 6-foot countertop with a sink. And then a fridge like 10 feet away, and then a stove all by itself on another wall like 20 feet away. And it's like, that's the kitchen.
Well, that's because you're looking at places around the campus. Like that's how people made their money in the 70s. They're like, we bought a house or our parents died, so we're going to cut this up into 4 or 6 apartments and rent it to students. You get over by the park. Like there's some apartment buildings there that were built in the 20s that are, they're drafty as hell. But man, they're cool. You know what I mean? It's like you're stepping back in time.
My advisor lives in this apartment right in front of Ritter Park.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. And it's cool. We've been in there. Like, his wife has got some Bothriechis schlegeli, some eyelash vipers. So we went over there and checked out the snakes before we went on the Belize trip because there was a chance we could see them. So it's like, let's let everybody see what they look like, And their apartment's pretty cool. It's like one of those just old stone apartments,
Mm-hmm.
It looks like it looks like a regular apartment, like what I would think an apartment looks like, as opposed to these other houses that have been transformed and now they're Franken apartments. I don't know, they're weird.
I've lived in a couple of those buildings down there around the park. One was called the Roxy. I remember, and it's like 3 stories. It's like right there on the corner of 10th and 11th or something, and we looked at the 3rd floor apartment, and it was like this beautiful big windows overlooking the park, or you could kind of see the park. And it was just, this is amazing. We'll definitely rent it. And then the realization kicked in, like there's no elevator. This is an old apartment building, and I'm carrying everything I own up 3 flights of creaky wooden narrow steps. Like this is terrible. Why did I do this? And then it was also extremely hot, and I don't know. It was cool. It was beautiful. It just was a miserable experience, which is why I don't live in Huntington anymore.
My buddy
single pane glass windows.
Single pane glass windows. Yeah, he lived here in town in a little 1-bedroom apartment for a while. And then he got tired of that. He didn't like that anymore. So.
Yep.
Yeah, we've been living in this one for a long time.
The whole time I lived in Huntington, I had 1 tarantula that entire time, but that's because I hadn't got plugged in with the online community. Like I got my first tarantula, like I said, when I was a freshman in college. I was in South Dakota, and there was like, we had the internet, but it was still dial up, like at our apartment. And, it was even in the dorm, like in the computer lab, there was, a T1 connection or whatever. It was super fast at the time for playing StarCraft. And I really enjoyed that, but I'm dating myself. But it was, there just wasn't a whole lot of information out there, because there wasn't, like, they sold tarantulas. There was a couple of websites. There was, I think Arachnoboards was around back then. Maybe not. Maybe they came a little bit later. But, it was difficult. You pretty much had to go to the library and check out a book that was written in the 80s, And so, like, that was the information. And it wasn't until, it was like 15 years. I just had a tarantula set up kind of poorly. Like I had a heat light on it and everything, because that's what they told me at the pet store. That's what I read in a book. And it's like, And I know now that that was the wrong substrate and it wasn't enough substrate and they didn't need the heat lamp. And yeah, I was feeding it way too much. I was dumping in a dozen crickets every week, like on schedule. It's like, that's not how tarantulas eat. And
yeah,
3
just
weeks wasting down the line,
money. There's like 20,000 crickets in there. There's more movement from the crickets than there is from the tarantula.
Yeah. Well, she would just kill them and not eat them. Like, they're annoying her. So she would kill them. They're just pick up dead roaches all week. Like, why am I doing this? Like, I don't want her to starve. And it's like, the first time she molted, I didn't know what it was. I just came home and it looked like there was 2 tarantulas in my enclosure. I was like, she died. Oh no, she's over there. What the hell happened?
Did it reproduce via mitosis or something? Like, what's going on?
Like, now it's like somebody freaks out for a molt. People are like, you should have done your research. That's how all invertebrates grow. And it's like, I feel where they're coming from though, because I got my first one, there wasn't no Facebook. There was no MySpace. Like, maybe, there wasn't MySpace yet. So it was like, and that it wasn't until I started that Instagram and started like accounts following me that also kept tarantulas and just posted tarantula content. And, it was like, that was my introduction into this whole world of people that sell tarantulas online. I didn't know that was something you could do, but also was like, I wasn't looking for it. Like, I had my tarantula. I thought I knew everything there was to know. I didn't realize how much I didn't know. And that kind of, so that's why I'm a little more, at least with my content and stuff, I'm a little more friendly to new keepers, just because like I remember exactly what you're feeling.
That's important now. I mean, we did a whole episode on social media and how kind of unfortunately toxic it can be at times. A lot of these larger groups, have, I'd say, better than half the people in there are basically just in there to be like, that's not right. Why are you doing it that way? And then you got a bunch of other people who are like trying to pick up the slack and be like, let's be cool to the new people and try to teach them because that's why they're here. Not to just tell them that everything they're doing is wrong. Like, let's gently break it to them that maybe they could do things better, and then tell them why. Because that's why they're there.
But I mean, I can understand both sides. Because I mean, if you've been keeping for a while, you've done your research, and you've been in that group for a while, you see the same question coming up over and over again, and it's maddening. You're just like, want to shake people, like, do your research first, like before you even get the animal. It's hard to like continually remind yourself that first time I got an animal like this, I probably didn't do my research either. It's hard to remember that.
Time, doing research, but it is hard to remember because now you just know stuff. You've done it. And you're doing it a lot, and you know exactly what to expect, and all the new questions because you had all those new questions, and it just is what it is, man. It's hard. I see a lot. I see a lot of it too. People just get stuff they don't really know. There's a lot of impulse buying still going on, and it's unfortunate, but I think it's not going to stop. I think it's always going to be a thing. So
yeah. And
trying to put,
I mean, this might be controversial, but I don't think you even really want it to stop. I mean, I understand like it's irresponsible, and people are probably going to get mad at me, but it's also like that has opened up the door to people learning so much and keeping so many cool species as that first impulse buy. It's like maybe that wasn't a responsible thing to do, but Jesus, if you judged me on my irresponsible decisions, like I'd be in a lot of trouble. That is like randomly picking up a tarantula or a snake or something would be like nowhere near the most irresponsible stuff I've done in my life, so I'm not worried about that. But it introduced me to this whole world that I probably never would have even knew existed if I hadn't gotten that first one irresponsibly, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, man. I mean, shoot, the first time I ever kept a reptile, and tried to properly keep a reptile, aside from like toads and stuff when I was a kid, putting them in boxes and things like that. I went to the pet store for a fish tank. I was going to set up an aquarium, and then I saw a Chinese water dragon in the pet store, and I was like, nope, not that. And so went home with a 10-gallon tank, a reptile carpet, a heat rock, a heat lamp, red one, or a black one actually, and then like a stick and some crickets, and then slowly started to do my research over the next few weeks, and then that was sort of what got me into the whole there's a whole plethora of information out here online and I can do it better than what the pet store told me to do.
So. Does anybody actually use a heat rock? Like, do they still sell those?
No, some places do. I've seen them still in stores, but you shouldn't.
Yeah, wow.
It's a bad idea.
Yeah.
I always tell people if you get one for some reason, whether you buy one outright at a store or if somebody gives you one or something in a setup, just cut the cord off and use it as a decoration, or throw it away. That's
there you go.
Because they don't even look that good. But if you like the way it looks, then cut the cord off.
Yeah. I mean, that when I got my first tarantula, that was like what they like. You need a 10-gallon aquarium. It needs a hide. It needs a heat rock, a heat lamp, and then like the substrate was like wood chips. And I'm like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. He works at this pet store. He's the authority. He knows more than I do. So I bought all that stuff and I bring it home. And like 5 years later, I come across some information like tarantulas aren't reptiles. They have no ability to regulate their body heat by moving. Like they're just attracted to the warmth and they will sit on that rock and cook to death. Like it's like, oh shit, I should probably get that out of there. And then it's like, oh wait, they don't even need light, like a heat light. That's actually causing desiccation and dehydration. They're killing them. I better take that out of there. It's like, yeah, it's funny. Because I was just like, well, what uses a heat rock? If like it's bad for reptiles, it's bad for tarantulas. Why are they still selling them?
Yeah, like, are they even out there?
Most places aren't, but I have seen a few things here and there. I've seen them in places. I don't know why they're even still manufactured, to be honest. Yeah, because it's like, why they do have them at Petco. Didn't I send you a picture fairly recently when I was at Petco? I was like, bro, what the fuck? I sent him a picture.
Maybe they like stopped making them a decade ago. Like, we're not making them anymore, but we've got to get rid of the ones that we already had made in storage. So they're just slowly leaking them out to unsuspecting retail customers or something. But yeah, that's why I
cared a lot.
That's why. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say, like, personally for me, I mean, I was obviously a hobbyist when I worked at a pet store, and I cared a lot about the stuff that I felt like I put time into researching and knowing. So I really cared about what I was saying to my customers. Unfortunately, overall in pet stores, the overwhelming majority of people don't necessarily know as much, just because they go in there and they're told what to say and they're just there to sell you product. So it's good that we have this whole entire community online now that people can actually learn from, so you go to the pet store, if you have to go there and get the stuff and get your animal because that's where you can go get it, then great. But now you can learn, exactly what it is you need to learn before you go in there.
Yeah.
So you come in with a little foreknowledge, there are definitely exceptions to the rule. There are awesome, amazing exotic stores. There are awesome, amazing, small, privately owned pet stores. I just think the overwhelming majority of the big box stores, they're just filling it with bodies, so there's probably maybe a handful of people in there who really like the stuff and they've put some time into learning it. But then there's other people that are just like there to be like, yeah, buy that and I'll ring you up. You know what I mean? Right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to like knock people that work at, Petco or PetSmart or places like that, because I mean, first off, I've worked a lot of retail and you're not going to go work at Petco unless you at least like animals. Like, part of that job's cleaning up poop, like I could be working at American Eagle, but I like animals. So I'm going to work at Petco. So, I mean, at least they got that going for them. And I think a lot of people they like cats or they like birds, but now you're asking them questions about tarantulas or reptiles. And they're like, I don't even want to touch them. Like I have no interest in that, but now I got to be nice and sell you stuff because it is a retail job. So it's like, I don't get mad at them. And a lot of times their husbandry is based on, that's decided at a corporate level. They just got to do what it tells them to do. So like, that's like a big thing in the tarantula hobby. I'm sure it is in the reptile too, but they keep tarantulas like poorly and mainly for display purposes. Like there's an inch of substrate. It's like that species needs like a good 6 inches because it likes to burrow. But if it's burrowed, nobody's going to see it. And if people can't see it, they're not going to buy it. So I understand why they're doing what they're doing. But people go in there and they want to they're yelling at the minimum wage employee. That's, some college kid. It's like, hey, I don't make the decisions here. Like, why are you coming off of me?
I just never felt like that I need to do that in a place like that. I've gone into places and I've seen like overcrowded tanks with like full of leopard geckos or whatever, but I've never been like, I'm going to say something about this. You know what I mean? Like, just never been that guy when it comes to the big box places. Because fortunately, I've never come across some of these ones like I've seen on online posts where things are like actually very sick, Usually it's just an overcrowding and like you said, slightly, husbandry is maybe just a little off, but maybe it's for display purposes type thing. So I've seen a lot of that, but I mean, there's
I don't want to I don't want to pat some big corporate store on the back, but I know that our local box pet store, I mean, the terrible husbandry. The people are all like, they like fish and birds and some mammals. They, the reptile section. Like, I don't think maybe there's a couple guys that work there that enjoy it. But they had a ballpark. Like I have 2 dogs and 2 cats. So we have like a family vet, and I was behind him in line at the store, and, just chit chat a little bit. And he gets up there and the manager's ringing people up, and turns out they have a relationship because anytime there's a sick snake or something like that, they bring it to Dr. Yorkie, and he takes care of it, and we'll even keep it at his shop and rehabilitate it. I mean, obviously he's getting paid for that, but I just thought it was cool because I just figured a snake gets snake, a snake gets sick. If it gets sick or like a reptile sick, they're just like, oh, that sucks. It'll die and we'll throw it away.
Right.
Like, I thought that was kind of cool that yeah.
I think honestly, they're probably supposed to have some kind of relationship with a veterinarian so they can get that kind of stuff done if they need to, especially the larger corporate chains, because, I mean, you'd think that they would have to have that in place so that they're not, to cover their butt, you know what I mean? Because that's inevitably going to happen. You have livestock, something's inevitably going to happen at some point. It's not, everything's not going to be perfect and do well all the time. So,
and it's worked for you. I don't know if you remember, I worked for Petco for like a year. I mean, it didn't last very long, but basically, they do that, man. They'll send a freaking leopard gecko to the pet store. I mean, to the vet's office just by itself. I mean, they don't have an issue, absolutely no issue doing that. And I mean, like,
it's a little.
They'll send a $30 gecko, and they'll get a bill. It's way more than $30, and they'll pay it, and they don't care. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's how it should be.
It's a good thing for sure. Yeah,
and it's a little different with reptiles and invertebrates. Not saying that like inverts' life is less meaningful or anything like that, but there's not. Especially like when you're talking about tailless whip scorpions and stuff like that, you could take it to a vet and there's nothing a vet could do, like there's a lot of, they're just not nearly as studied on a biological level as far as like what can make them sick or something like that. Like there's some, like main issues that you could address, but sometimes inverts just genetics or whatever, they just die. You don't know why. I'm just like, I'm not going to drink water or eat food anymore. And it doesn't matter. You try to adjust the conditions and get them perfect. And it's like, if for whatever reason they just gave up on life and they're like determined to die. And I was in there. There's one guy that works at that store that just because he was talking to me about tarantulas and I gave him like a sticker, I was like, check out my YouTube channel. I explained it so much better there than I could explain it to you here. So he knew who I was and what I did and saw me buying some substrate. And a customer was asking him questions and he was like, actually, Richard, do you know the answer to this? And the guy was wanting to buy a tailless whip scorpion that they had. And they were wanting to know what sex it was, which is not an easy question when they don't know what species it is. Like tailless whip scorpions, sometimes the way that you sex them is like by counting notches on like the claw arm or like spots or, what I mean? There's like, but it's different depending on what's like, is this one from Africa or is this one from Central America? Like it depends on the genus and the species. And they're just like, I don't know. They all look the same. They're tailless whip scorpions. It's like, well, let's look at it. I'll see. I'm not an expert, but I could take some pictures and send it to someone that probably could. He opens up the enclosure. I'm like, oh, that's a dead tailless whip scorpion. Like, I don't know what you want. I can't do anything. It's been dead for like a couple of days. And it's like, he felt really bad. And I'm like, well, it's a pet that, I mean, it's an animal that like hides in cracks and crevices between like rocks and like, it doesn't want to be seen, especially during the day when people are moving around and the lights are on. Like it's really good at hiding. So there's no way you would have known that it had died, unless you're like really bothering it. They don't feel bad. They just do that sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, everything dies eventually, unfortunately, and sometimes they die unexpectedly. I mean, in our side of the hobby with reptiles, they're purposefully, adapted to hide illness and weakness and everything else. So sometimes they can be really sick and you won't know, until you do know. And then sometimes at that point it's too late. So I've had random deaths over the years, almost 20 years in, it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's like the most frustrating thing. Like my inbox, whether it's email or Instagram or something like that, it's so depressing sometimes. That's why, like, when I go into message requests, Like sometimes I only do that once a month because I know it's either going to be somebody that's mad and they're complaining, or just like, hey, just want to let you know I hate your videos, so please die.
Yeah,
or
just
something like that.
Just took the time just to let you know. That sucks.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Or it's somebody that's like sending me pictures of their dead tarantula and like, can you please tell me what happened? My tarantula died. It's like, man, I don't want to see like just corpse after corpse after corpse. Like, and it's like, there's a lot. Sometimes it's like, well, obviously that's a tropical species and you're keeping it on sand with a heat lamp. So that's why it died. But most of the time it's like they did everything right and it just died, it had a bad molt, or it's just a stressful experience. And it's like, there just isn't, like your bearded dragon is acting weird. Maybe it has some kind of weird bone degenerative disease or something. You can take it to the vet and they can give it a CAT scan or an X-ray. And you can't X-ray a tarantula because it's skeletons on the outside, So it's like, I mean, I'm sure you can, but it's not going to tell you anything. They don't have a brain like other animals do. So it's like there's so much that we don't know about their neurological disorders and diseases, and there's all kinds of nematodes and parasites, and it's just they're not studied on a biological level. So the vets most of them won't even look at them. It's like if it's hurt, we could clog up whatever is like leaking hemoglobin. Maybe that'll save it. Or we can like get it off something sticky, or try to do something, but it's like battlefield medic stuff that I could do at home. Like watching a YouTube video. So there's a lot of stuff that just can't be done for invertebrates. And for the most part, people are like, they're bugs. Why do we care? Like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that mentality carries over from from a research perspective too, at like the university level. Like I worked on amphibians, so I had to have what they call an IACUC. It's basically a safe handling and minimal stress protocol for the animal, and you have to have those for vertebrate animals, but you don't have to have that certification for invertebrate animals. So my advisor works primarily on mussels and macroinvertebrates in the river. Never had to have one in his lab, unless it's a fish person, somebody who comes around and does stuff for fish. But for me, I had to have it. So yeah, if you're doing research on, bees, or like we have somebody in our lab working on bees, or if you have somebody working on spiders or, snails or whatever it may be, you don't have to have that kind of thing. I'm sure that, you want to, if there's like euthanasia involved or, handling involved, you want to do it as carefully as possible, because obviously you care about that species because you're working on it. But there's nobody that's going to like come and breathe down your neck and make sure you're doing it right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What's interesting is I was doing some videos on some different species of scorpion and was doing a lot of research, and I kept getting directed, like as I'm traveling down the research path, like you read an article and I'm like, well, what are the sources of this article? I want to read what they read. And then I look at that, and then you get back to like the scientific papers, and it's like study after study after study. I kept popping up on Mercer University's website, and I'm like, there's like a whole, I don't know if it's a department, but there's a group of people that are doing a lot of studies on scorpion, especially the venom now.
I know the guy actually. His name is Dr. Victor Fett, and I've had him for a couple of classes. He's a Russian guy, he's originally from Russia, and he's been here for a long time, and he's like the guy, the scorpion guy. We had a big thing with him because he taught my evolution class. He also teaches a couple of intro biology classes and then genetics classes as well. But he always goes on a scorpion tangent, no matter what he's teaching you, because that's his thing. Yeah. And he's always he's like, in my line of work, I count the hairs, I find new species. That's how it works. So
yeah, exactly. And that's, I think that kind of goes to the B. Vaughan's thing. When it comes to different species, it's a very subtle difference in a lot of invertebrates and arachnids mainly. But you have to put in a good word for me, because I kept coming back to his papers. I was like, I need to get this guy on the podcast, but I don't know who they are, and I don't really know anybody at Marshall
next time
anymore.
I'm over there, I'll see if I can round him up and be like, I don't know if this is something you ever do, but just so you know, I know a guy who likes to have researchers on his podcast and he's a big arachnid guy. So maybe he'll do it. Maybe he won't. I don't know. Yeah. I find that you never know what you're going to get with some people, because they're like, you'll be like, at least for ours, because it's always on camera. Like we always have an on camera element, at least for now. that's like the biggest deterrent that I've run into with asking people. It's either they're okay with being on camera, or they're just like, I don't want you to videotape me at all.
Well,
Yeah.
You know?
that he'd be glad to do just a sound one, huh?
Yeah, he might be glad just to do a sound one,
Yeah.
which is good because you do that. So yeah, I'll
Yeah.
ask him for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a few people. There
Or
was
if
one
you
guy.
want, I'll email him and then I'll send you his email. I'll be like, because you can find it online.
Yeah.
It's not hidden information. So I'll send you his email address, and I'll let him know that I talked to you. To see if maybe
Very cool.
he'd want to talk to you.
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't even have to be like this. I mean, my sister's still down in Huntington, so I could be like, just go down there for the weekend or something. I make her happy, and I could, do a podcast in person with them. It would be all right.
Awesome.
But yeah, that would be cool because I enjoy that stuff because it's frustrating because of the YouTube channel. Honestly, people, especially people that don't know a whole lot, like they hear what I'm saying and they see me on their screen on their phone, and they're like, that guy is an authority figure. He knows what he's talking about. And it's like a lot of times I only know that because I researched it and got like I didn't know that before. I was like, I want to make this video. Sometimes it's because like I did a video on the urticating hairs of tarantulas, and it was mainly because I wanted to know more about that. Now people are asking me questions I don't know the answer to, and it's like, well, if I'm going to do all this research, I might as well make a video about it. So I do that, and then I write a script, and I read that script into the camera, and sometimes that information goes away within a few days because I did terrible things to my brain in my 20s that sometimes a long-term memory is hard to hold on to. And so like I got to go back and watch my own video to like figure out now whether there's 6 or 7 different types of urticating hairs. Let me double check this, So it's like, yeah, so that's, I get these like just crazy questions and I'm like, I don't know. I'm not a biologist. I don't have any degrees in science. I don't know anything about this. Like, so yeah, it's nice having people like that on, but it's also very intimidating because it's like, I don't even know a smart question to ask. Like,
yeah, I'm bad at it. Like, I mean, I'm pursuing degrees in science, and I feel like I'm the worst question asking person in the world. See, I didn't even articulate that well. So it's like, like I'm in class and I'm just like listening and frantically taking notes. I haven't been in class in a long time, but when I was taking classes, I'm just listening and frantically taking notes. Like I'm not like, oh, that I have this awesome question that I'm about to ask this professor. I would just let everyone else ask all the questions and be like, damn, that's a good question. Let me listen to that answer.
Yeah.
And
but one thing I've learned,
I'm not a real scientist. I don't know how to ask questions.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll have like, pieces of paper that
I will show my ignorance by asking this question. But that's a cool thing about, at least I've noticed on my podcast, talking to like scientists or people in that field, is that you just got to ask like when I was interviewing Dr. Rayer, I just asked one question that was like a very basic question, and she talked for 20 minutes. Like she started answering it like she's in class, she just starts giving me the lecture. It sounds bad when I say she's like not chastising me. Like my mom would lecture me. Yeah. It's interesting information.
It's the proper term, but it has multiple meanings.
Yeah. So it's like, oh wow, and then like almost like a kid in class. It's like, well, I don't understand what you said about this. Can you explain that? So it's like, it's just me having like picking her brain, and it just happens that we're recording it and posting it on the internet, and people like, that's one of the most popular podcast episodes. And it's like, it got so heavy with the science stuff. Like she's using terms I couldn't even ask her to clarify what the term meant because I couldn't pronounce it. I was like, I'm not even going to try and say that word you said, so we're just going to move on. Pretend like I know what you're talking about. But
smile and nod.
Yeah. But it's fascinating information, and so that's why I would like to talk to him, because I think that would be cool. I'll just have to brush up
for sure.
on my basic scorpion knowledge. But yeah, it's interesting because I don't know. I lived by Marshall, but I never went there. I went to study music in South Dakota for some reason, and Hey,
that's cool. Yeah, I mean, he loves to talk scorpions, so I'm sure, hopefully, maybe he'd like to talk to you. That'd be cool. Because I don't know that he gets to do that as much as he likes to, unless he goes to like a scorpion conference or he's talking to a colleague. I think most of the classes he teaches, he's teaching pretty basic biology stuff, So he just kind of throws in little scorpion tidbits in there every now and then.
Yeah, and I think that would be fascinating. But that's also like when I've been trying to get guests on the show, there are some people that I've talked to, like I met at an expo or just online or emails. Like I get some really interesting people that will email me and usually correcting me like, hey, you said this in your video, but technically, scientifically, yeah. And it's like, yeah, that's true, but I got to keep these videos under 10 minutes. And that would take 10 minutes just to explain on top of the 10-minute video. And these people don't know that, you know, like I try to keep that in mind. Like I'm making this video for majority of like 90% of people that watch it are people that just got their first tarantulas. So if I'm using Latin names and then scientific parts of tarantula bodies that are like, you know, pretty super specific, I'm going to lose them. They're going to be like, what is that? Like, I'm going to give them a headache. Or I could just say it sucks up goo through its mouth. Like, technically, that's not correct scientifically, but generally speaking, that's exactly what it's doing. You know what I mean? Like,
well, yeah, and for the purposes of, yeah, I mean, you have to deal with people's attention span, which is getting shorter and shorter all the time.
Right. Like you could know that and then be like, I want to know more about that specific process and go on a deep dive on your own and learn all of the different scientific names for its mouth, which is like made up of a whole bunch of stuff. So, you know, I'll leave that on them, but like, I'll get those emails and I'm like, well, this is actually really interesting. Why don't you come on the podcast? Because that's the perfect place to have a long form discussion and really get into the nitty gritty. And like, oh no, I don't want to like be on camera. And it's like, well, just call. We'll do it over the phone or something like that. I can just record your audio, and or I'll even just blank you out. Like we'll talk through a video like we are right now, but I just won't post the video part. We'll just have the audio, and people get nervous, and I understand. Like you're talking on a microphone, or especially if you're talking on a microphone, look into a camera. The knowledge that there are people out there watching sometimes can, you know, make you nervous, and so I get it, but it's like there's so many cool conversations that I have wanted to have with people that just refuse to be recorded, I guess.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I mean, hey, it's going to happen. You know, that's what I've come to know. It's sometimes you get people who just don't want to do it, and that's cool. There's always somebody else down the line. You'll run into somebody who will be, you know, the perfect guest for you. But all that being said, I think we're getting real close to the 2-hour mark. So I think we're probably going to try to wrap it.
2 hours.
Yeah, it's a good long one for sure. Doesn't even feel like it, honestly. I've had a great time.
But then you might not like my podcast. There's like some of them are like an hour, but I think the most of them it's like when we're doing this, I'm looking at the little clock there on StreamYard. I'm like, we have just passed 3 hours. We got to wrap this up, and then we talk for another half an hour. It's terrible. It gets a little long-winded,
it's
but
different. It's different when you're doing them than when you're listening to them. Because I like
that's true.
Long.
I like.
But
for sure.
When you're working 12 hours a day and then you come home,
right?
And do a 3
like
hour.
when I go back to Huntington, that's like a solid 3.5 hour drive. So if I can find a podcast, it's 3.5 hours. It's like this is perfect. I just started at my front door and end by the time I'm rolling into town.
You're gonna have to get up with a DJ from to have one that long.
We'll just have to have you guys on my podcast, and then we can just talk forever.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to have to pick your brain.
Isn't at night.
Yeah, it's not at night. Well, because I got a family here, it's easier for me to do stuff during the day while they're at work and school and daycare. You know, it's like, so sometimes that makes it difficult because it's like, okay, let's record at 1 o'clock. They're like, I'm at work. I'm like, well, so am I.
Right.
But
I'm in that.
This just happens to be my work
right now, where I'm not actually technically employed at an outside job, but hopefully that's going to change very soon. So schedule might be a little weirder, but I'm with you on that. I mean, before we started doing the podcast, when I was posting just regular videos, that's when I would do all my stuff. It's because my wife's at work, the kids are at school. It's like it's quiet.
Yeah, it just makes it easier.
I don't have to worry about trying to record a voiceover for this part of the video and then having daddy.
Yeah. And it's like a psychological thing. Like I can record a video down here in the basement by myself during the day, knowing that thousands of people are going to see it, but I don't get nervous anymore at all. It's just like, well, I'm just talking to the camera. I still have control over the edit and publishing. And I've just been able to block out those nerves. But if my wife is upstairs, especially like if she knows I'm recording, she will turn the TV off because she's, very considerate and supportive when it comes to that. And we'll just sit there, read a book or something like that. But I know she can hear me talking. So I got that
Right.
in my head. So it's like I'm trying to make this video, but I'm like trying to perform for my wife, who may or may not be hearing me in the background. It's
Right.
ridiculous.
Or
And if I'm just
or
like,
even
I
caring
can't do it.
necessarily what
I
you're
just
saying at that moment
yeah.
in time. Yeah.
She's probably trying to block me out. Like, God, would you just be
Probably.
quiet down there? I'm trying to read, but in my head. So I don't even try to do it anymore because I get all. It takes me twice as long because I keep screwing up and it's ridiculous. But before we go, I did want to.
Yeah.
I was trying to pay you a compliment earlier, and you kept cutting me off. So I was just like, all right,
I'm
talk
sorry.
about yourself. I won't talk about you. I'm just kidding. I wanted to compliment you on because I had done some research about crested geckos. I had wanted one for a while. It was Adam Wickens when we did our collab video.
Oh yeah.
He was like really suggesting that. And I just think they look really cool. So I knew going to that expo, I wanted to, like, I had the enclosure, I had everything ready. I wanted to get one. And it was nice because talking to you reaffirmed, like you didn't just sell me the gecko, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't know if it's because it's just how you do it or if it was because it was me, but you were really kind and you're very informative. Like you told me things about how like just their different colors and patterns that I didn't know that part of it. And their husbandry, you reaffirmed some of the stuff I knew and also give me some other pointers. And it was very responsible breeder dealer thing, which is why I like small breeders, as opposed to like Petco or something like that, because you actually know, like you could tell me what the animal had been eating up until then, like you can't get that information from, large stores. So I just wanted to say thank you because the gecko's awesome. It's still alive and healthy and doing great.
I always like to hear that, and thank you for that. I appreciate that. It means a lot. It means a lot coming from anybody. Honestly, I mean, it's really not just that it was you. I was very excited to see you, and in the back of my mind, I was like, I wonder if he's actually going to come. It'd be really cool to like see him, But at the same time, I do that with everybody, man. And I have it's torn. I'm torn a lot of times because I have to sell some because I can't keep them all.
Right.
It's not like a big part of my income or anything, so I'm not like reliant on selling geckos to like feed my family and stuff like that. But it's just I want to sell them, but I don't necessarily want to sell them to everybody. They're not necessarily the right choice for everyone. So if someone comes to my table and asks me questions about them, and then we get to the nitty gritty of what it is they're really looking for, and it's not the crested gecko, then I'll be like, well, there's somebody over there, a really cool guy. He's got a ton of leopard geckos. I think that's probably more in your wheelhouse. You know what I mean? Go talk to him, that type of thing. So I'm quick to do that as well. And I just want everybody to know what I know, which is not everything, but it's enough to get you through. And the places you can go to do more research, and you just learn as you go too. So I appreciate that.
Now, I say that I did my research, but there are some aspects of crested geckos that I didn't retain, or maybe I just didn't realize. And it's the flame up, flame down aspect of it. I heard that a lot. I knew the terminology, but I don't think in my mind I ever really saw good examples of the two. It wasn't the one I got from you, but those girls that were adopting some out, they hooked me up with one. And when they gave it to me, it was like this almost, I don't want to say bright red, but it was like a brick red color. And I didn't realize that it was flamed up. I thought that's just the color it was. And then when I brought it home, set up its enclosure, came to check it on the next morning, it was like gray. I was like, oh my God, what did I do wrong? Like I had a panic attack.
And it'll be
like,
gray
this
most
thing
of the
is
time,
sick.
probably.
Yeah. And I felt like, I mean, they didn't scam me because they were adopting it out, but if I had paid hundreds of dollars for that, I would have felt scammed. Like you sold me this cool red looking gecko, and what I actually got with this ugly ass gray one.
It's entirely possible that you could have paid that much for that gecko. I've seen it. It's a Dalmatian. It's it's got a red base color. If you went to a breeder who knew like everything about that gecko, like its lineage going back, a couple of generations or whatever. And it had good lineage, and parents with good structure and all that stuff, then you could have conceivably paid that much for it. Maybe even more depending on what it was. So, but the fact that you got it from an adoption group is awesome, because there's a ton of animals out there that need just good homes, and you don't necessarily have any impending plans like I gotta make the coolest crested geckos and I gotta breed them. You just want to have a couple of really cool geckos in your collection, so it's perfect.
I felt a little irresponsible because it's like I was like, I'm going to get a gecko, and like they were like, hey, we're going to adopt these out. Like the first day I was there, and I was like, well, that's cool. I mean, I thought yours were really cool, but it was like I could pay for one, or this adoption agency is like hooking it up. And then like I was like, well, I'm busy filming right now, so I'll come back at the end of the day and pick it up. And then they were gone. I was like, where'd they go? They got rid of them. I think I ran into them in the parking lot. Like, yeah, we adopted them all out. I was like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. There's, I'll go in there and get one. And then they came back the next day, and it was like I had bought the one from you. And then like I'd walked around, and they're like, hey, we're back today. But they were like in a completely different spot. And we're like, and we've got some geckos. I'm like, okay. I guess I don't want to like go back on my word, so we'll just bring home 2 geckos today.
Hey, man.
They're not that, and you're not really. I mean, they're not hard to take care of, man. They're easy, and you got a couple of juveniles, so you got some time. Even if you put them in a smaller enclosure to start with, you got plenty of time to move them into a bigger enclosure. So, and I don't think you're in any shortage of enclosures.
No, actually, when I was working today, was doing the spray foam background on their adult enclosure, so they're going to be up and ready and growing plants and everything, probably way before they're even ready to get moved into them. But I that's like the weird thing, or the big difference between I think what you do and what I do is that the geckos have all these lineages and morphs and color patterns and stuff like that. Like, and there's different prices for all that different stuff. And with tarantulas, that kind of behavior is frowned upon. You bring me a hybrid tarantula that's like 2 different morphs or something like that mixed together. It's like, yeah, I don't want that. Like those need to die off and because they're not natural. Like we just want, because they're also different species. They're not different morphs. It's like, and you can't crossbreed them and get different colors and stuff.
There is some hybridization going on in the New Caledonian gecko world, but it's not very many people do it. The Chihuahuas will interbreed with Cresties fairly easily. I've heard that it's not that hard, but it's not
poison
something
dart
that
frogs. Do they do that?
No, and dart frogs is real frowned upon. So like,
right.
I knew it was frowned upon, but does it happen? They can interbreed, right? Because they're the same species.
Like, frowned upon, and like just like if you happen to have some like little froglets and one of them's an albino, they're like, no, they let them die. They don't. Yeah. They don't want that in the bloodline. Like,
I understand. Yeah, that's kind of how the tarantulas are. But like, they're different species. Like if it's this species, that's what defines that species is how it looks. And they, for the most part, will only breed with their own species. Like you can try to crossbreed them. Most of the time, it's like, it's kind of like what is that? The horse and the donkey makes the mule, and then the mule can't procreate. Like in situations like that. But most of the times, they're just not viable egg sacs. But there are some, like we call them kissing cousins, or I call them kissing cousins. I don't think anybody else does. But they're like species that are very closely related. Like some like a Brachypelma homori and the Brachypelma classy or something like that. They're very, very similar, but they just have different color patterns, and people will crossbreed those into a hobby form. Some Poecilotheria species are like that because they're different, but they're only really separated by location, and they're kind of branched off evolutionary there, but they're still close enough they can interbreed. And so you get those hobby form pokies, and it's like nobody wants to buy them. It's like you can't. Why even do it? Like it may look cool. Most likely it'll just look like a normal Brachypelma, or it won't look that different. But then nobody will buy them, so you're stuck with 100 spiders. So
mostly what's going on in the reptile world is not a lot of hybridization. There are some things throughout, whether it's snakes, geckos, other types of lizards, but most everybody's staying within the same actual like genus species. They're staying within the same species. Yeah, it's just the morph thing is selective breeding for different color and pattern. Right. Phenotype.
But that's like the issue. That's the question I get a lot is people that come from like the ball python where there's all these different morphs and they want to do that to tarantulas. It's like, you can't do that. Yeah. Like these aren't different morphs of tarantulas. These are different species, different genuses, in fact, of a lot of these different species. You can't crossbreed them to get a cool new morph, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Gotcha. Well, that's
thank you.
Cool, but
thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much for coming by, and we're definitely going to coordinate so we can get together and record an episode. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, if you'd like definitely, that'd be great. Yeah, we'd love it.
Yeah, that would be fun. I liked how you're like trying to wrap it up at the half-hour mark. I'm like, well, no, I'm going to make you talk to me for 20 more
It
minutes.
didn't happen. No, that's fine. We're all on different wavelengths here. Like, I'm tired, but like I'm cool to talk, but I do have to like leave for Beckley at like 4:45 in the morning.
I'm
So-
tired.
Oh God.
On a pillow.
Yeah, he's sitting on a pillow on a hardwood
I don't even
floor.
have a couch right now.
Charles probably worked 14 hours today.
I'm sorry,
home,
guys.
I got home at
No, you're good, man.
about 9 o'clock.
No,
I
we love this,
I
dude.
worked on
Like,
enclosures
this-
all day.
Did
Fuck
you?
yeah.
Yeah. This is
Oh,
the
yeah.
best like time that we've found for us to all be involved in this. So this is why we do it at this hour. And
Yeah.
we just stuck with it. We want to stay consistent. So yeah, sometimes we're tired,
Yeah.
but we always have a good time talking to whoever we're talking to, and we just immensely appreciate you agreeing to come on. I knew
Well, I
that if I
appreciate you
saw you
having
at the thing, I was going to be like, I'm going to ask him if he'll come on the podcast, and then I did. And you were like, sure. I was like, all right, cool.
Well, he kind of stronged arm me because he's got my debit card in one hand and my Gecko in the other hand. It's like, hey, do you want to come on the podcast? It's like, how do I say no? And
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm like,
He
right
has
before
my
I
bank
swipe, I'm like,
information.
I just want to ask.
I'm just kidding. That's
Well,
not how it happens.
there is always, you can
It was
always
pretty-
not show up.
Pretty much like that. Yeah, that
But yeah,
happens.
definitely. I'll have to have you guys on and or maybe even like one at a time because I need to stretch it out.
Well, sure. If you want to do a format
do
where
one
it's
at a
like,
time.
yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
All right, cool,
We
man.
can definitely do that, man. But thank you so much for coming out tonight and hanging out with us. And we're hanging out with the Tarantula Collective. So thank everybody who came to hang out. And this is Reptile Hangouts. We'll see you next week.
All right,
Thanks, everybody.
guys.